that was the time I was most frightened, waiting for my turn. I'll never put on a life jacket again. So 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men come out. The Sharks took the rest June the 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where we are continuing our epic explanation of Steven Spielberg's Jaws. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Rocha. I'm a writer, producer, host, and voiceover artist in San Diego, California. Excited to be getting back on the boat and do the fourth part on Jaws, which we have rarely done on the show, Steve. So I think that speaks volumes to how important and incredible this movie is. And I've even heard this week, let me just say this right now, I've heard a lot of sacrilege this week from people who were saying that this film isn't even in Spielberg's top 5. Which is mind-blowing to me, especially considering the fact that it did so well at the box office on its re-release, which is insane. So I love this film, and I'm glad we're going to have our conversation to wrap up this phenomenal movie.
Well, speaking of the box office re-release, I have a story, but before I can get to the story, we have to thank our supporters on patreon.com/thecine-files, as well as Apple Podcasts. We cannot make this podcast without your support. And I should say that we just recorded our new short, which is going to be available as this is airing. And we discussed Billy Joel and the incredible documentary, And So It Goes.
Yeah.
And that was a great conversation. And you can only get those conversations on Patreon and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. We also want to let you guys know that another way you can support the show, if you can't do it through Patreon, is if you hear, when you're listening to the show, some of the companies and the sponsors of the show with products that appeal to you, especially, Washington Red Raspberries, True Diagnostic. Quite a few people support our show. Please make sure you use our code Cine-Files there if you hear a product or service that you want to try out, because A, you'll get a great discount on it to try it out, and B, you'll be indicating to these people that they should keep supporting us here on the Cine-Files. So thank you all for doing that, and thanks to everyone who's done that, because True Diagnostic has gone out of their way to tell us how much they've really appreciated so many of you reaching out to them to try out their services.
Absolutely. And I said I had a story about the re-release, and here's my story. I had announced on social media that I was taking my 14-year-old son to see Jaws on IMAX at the world-famous Chinese theater, and I did so on Saturday, and he really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Said it was good, and then proceeded to not talk about it again and go immediately back to social media and his phone. So, but it went well. It went well.
That's good.
And now I have some less good news that I have to share with you, John. You might know, and those listening might know, that I really don't like being wrong. And not only do I dislike being wrong, but I dislike being publicly wrong. And you know what's worse than being publicly wrong, John? It's being repeatedly publicly wrong.
Okay.
And to make this even worse than that, to be repeatedly publicly wrong on a topic that you're making some claims to know a lot about really, really sucks. And so I now am here to deliver my mea culpa. I said the actor playing Ellen Brody's name wrong over and over and over again in 3 parts of Jaws.
Lorraine Gray? You got her name?
Because her name is Lorraine Gray.
Lorraine Gray. Oh. Well, I have to join you on the mea culpa. And I'm sorry to everybody that we've been saying her name wrong. It's a shame that we didn't catch it. But to be honest with you, we do so many of these movies that we are going to occasionally make those mistakes. So
can I tell you what made me a little bit happy? What the silver lining on this was?
Okay, sure.
Was that what? So basically, what I think happened, because I'm a little bit dyslexic, and the workaround my brain picked is that I'm very good at seeing the shape of words, and so I would tend to see like the first letter and the last letter.
Right.
So I saw a G and a Y, and that's what I did. And then I continued to repeatedly see the same thing year after year after year as I looked at that credit.
Yeah.
And in our last episode, I went on a rant about people who could be presented with facts over and over again and still not see them. And what I was trying to say was that this is everybody. It isn't just the stupid people on the other side. We all do this. Yeah. And here I have a perfect example of me looking at I looked at her Wikipedia page. I looked at her IMDb page. Oh. I looked at it over and over and over again and continued to see what I wanted to see.
Yeah, clearly I did as well. So I was influenced by your
My confidence?
your confidence in the saying of her name.
So, with that mea culpa out of the way, let's
Yes.
get back on the Orca. And we left off at one of the great moments, not just in Jaws, but in film history, which is Brody sees the shark for the first time, backs up into the cabin, turns to Quint and says,
"You're going to need a bigger boat."
Now, did I ask you this when we did this last part? Because I don't remember, but what was or maybe we'll start with this. What was your reaction to that scene? Do you remember your reaction in the theater when that shark came out of the water? Brody Roy Scheider shot up into the frame. Do you remember what your reaction was?
This is what's so weird for a movie that's so important. I think I said it in the first part. I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure I watched it on TV at my parents' house somewhere around 12 to 14-ish.
Okay.
But I really don't have a strong memory of seeing this movie the first time.
Wow. Okay.
I know it's crazy.
In that way, we differ because my parents foolishly, took me. And I remember that thing coming out of the water and losing my mother effing mind.
Yeah.
And there has never been a time I have seen that scene where it still hasn't affected me, because this is where you see a master filmmaker. The shark doesn't just come out, right? It's after he's chumming and he's tricked us. He's lulled us into this battle that's going on between Brody and Hooper about who is Quint's favorite on the ship. It's essentially what that is, And Brody is like, "Why don't you come down here and chum this shit? Why don't you?" And he's just jealous. He's a 15-year-old mad at his brother.
Yeah.
Because dad is choosing him over him, or he thinks he is. And the way the shark comes out when his head is turned, it's just so smart in how that's staged, so that when he looks, the shark is already out of the water, which adds to the believability that he would shoot bolt upright and away from this shark before slowly moving away from the shark and really grasping the size of the problem for the first time in real time. And I love the slow walk back. And I love that he walks into frame, because we have, once again, as he's done throughout the whole film, Spielberg, he has an actor right in the lower part of the frame. So we are caught up with that actor, and then boom, the actor we're really going to be watching in the scene comes into the frame. So it's fantastic the way he filmed this.
And I think Robert Shaw pulls energy off of Roy Scheider, because Roy Scheider's complete freaked outedness freaks out Quint a bit,
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Right. Yeah.
And the music is building. We come outside, and there we see, finally, we waited the whole movie to see the shark, and now we see the shark coming towards the boat with the music.
Shut off that engine.
All of them come to look, and they each, Dreyfuss steps up in the frame to go out and look, each of the way the shots are constructed beautifully, and then that shark passes under the boat as they watch, moving side to side. And I think the shark looks fantastic.
Yes, I agree. And then I love how Hooper goes, "That's a 20-footer." And then without missing a beat and giving that energy of a guy who's been out in the water a long time in his life, 25. Just the fact that the main guy that is the most experienced guy is telling you this is a bigger shark than this young kid is looking at, it strikes even more fear into you, and makes you see the size of the thing that they're really going to have to take on. I don't mean size by physical size. I mean just the energy of this thing.
Yeah. And then we get, which I think you mentioned in our last part, we get a new theme. Up to this point, we've had multiple themes for the sea. So we have the shark theme. We have what I call the hunting theme. We have kind of the harp and oboe clarinet, which is I call that the mystery of the sea theme. And now, but all of those are really about the ocean and about the shark.
Yeah.
I think this theme is about the people. I call this the battle theme. And this is, and it goes dun 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 dun. And I love that Brody is still on the...
You're going to need a bigger boat, right?
Well, because he's the one that's afraid of the water.
Yeah.
Logically, let's go back.
I mean, the shark is almost as long as the boat. We can't fight that shark on this boat. Yeah. And Quint, you can see he's frazzled.
Gotta get it work. How do we handle this?
Hold on, Martin, I need you.
Quint goes inside. And this is a very specific kind of shot. And I just want to point it out, which is that he grabs this green case. He pivots the case and then he moves it a slight bit again. you interviewed me for a Cine-Files short last week about editing.
Yes.
And there was one thing I thought of, and it relates to this moment that I didn't mention about editing. Part of what you're doing as an editor is judging verisimilitude. So you're going, do I believe this actor doing this thing or saying this line? And even great actors will have moments that, like, I didn't quite believe that, you know?
Right.
And one of the things that's very hard to do for actors is when they have to do a physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Robert Shaw has to it is very clear if you look at the shot, totally minor shot. I'm not saying this is important in any way, but it's very clear to me that Steven Spielberg gave him extremely specific things that he had to hit to frame it correctly. Right. And it looks to me like he hit it, but not quite, and then adjusted it slightly more mid-shot. And the only reason he's adjusting it mid-shot is because that's where the camera wants it, and that's what Steven told him to say. And this is where, as an editor, you go, I don't quite believe this move. And my guess is there were 3 takes of this. I'm totally making this up. This is just bullshit. But we were talking about editing a few days ago, and this is very much an editing thing. I got 3 takes. One take doesn't hit the mark well, but the pace is good. Right. Another take is too fast, but hits the mark perfectly. And this third take is the right pace, but has the second little move. And then you sit there and you go, which of these am I going to use?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a total drill down on an unimportant shot.
I mean, it's great. It's good to get a little bit of knowledge on how these things maybe have come about. So, yeah.
So the shark is coming towards us. And again, the shot, foot level, walking along the edge of the boat, and that little slip of 1 foot is great.
Again, that's so genius. That little move adds more tension for the viewer who's watching, you know.
Totally. And then of course, we get a radio call.
Orca, come in.
I have Mrs. Martin Brody here.
Put her on.
Which I'm like, put her on? What the hell are you talking about? And then we're back on deck. I love the bit of trying to get Brody to go out to the end of the pulpit to get a picture.
But this is where what I said earlier, I truly believe, as I was watching the movie, it became very clear to me, is that Brody is the clear one who is there to save the town. Hooper and Quint are there for their own reasons. And Hooper wanting Brody to go out there so that he can take a picture, he selfishly is going to ask Brody to put himself in harm's way so that he can get a shot for himself to advance his career, right? And I think that's a moment where it's a funny, very funny moment, but it also shows you that Hooper is not out here to get rid of the shark. Hooper is out here to get all this information to help himself. And I think that's a fascinating moment to open. I mean, it's a great way to show that that is what's going on here with Hooper. You know, it's subtle stuff, even though it's very noticeable. It's subtle, but I think that's what separates both of them from Brody. You know,
it's so interesting to me because there have been so many things on this show where you and I frame it not a lot different.
Yeah.
But just like subtly different. So I agree. I don't actually think that he's putting Brody, based on what we know about the shark in the world at this moment, in harm's way by sending him out there. But Brody definitely thinks he's putting him in harm's way. There's no question about that. The thing about taking the picture is, yes, he has a different agenda. That's totally clear.
Yeah.
But and part of it is because I've hung out with shark scientists. This is what you do. It's not just that he wants the picture for him, although he does. Right. It's that this is an amazing scientific find that I must document. That is the instinct of the scientist.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But it is about him. I agree with that too.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's what happens. And I think that's why what happens to the ship is that there's 3 cross purposes going on.
Exactly.
Every single time. Quint wants to kill the shark. Hooper wants to document the shark. Brody wants to incapacitate the shark so that it does not attack the town people anymore. You know?
Yeah, Brody's the purest of the 3.
100%.
The other guys have a bunch of other stuff going on.
Yeah,
and I love it. It ends when Brody finally realizes the purpose of sending him out there.
Please go to the end of the pulpit. What for? I need to have something in the foreground to give it some scale. Foreground my ass!
Your husband's all right, Mrs. Brody. He's fishing. He just got a couple of stripers. We'll bring him in for dinner. We won't be long. We haven't seen anything yet. Orca out.
I've seen people say, like, why did he even... Because you asked this question. I think he picked it up so there's no distraction. Because she'll keep calling, right? And I think because the shark is there, best to pick up the phone, answer the phone, make it seem like it's all right, and then boom, get off the phone so she doesn't call anymore while they deal with the shark. and no
You
distraction.
know what? You're right. I think you're totally right about this.
Possibly. That's my own headcanon is what I think he did, why he did. Because it's not explained why he picked it up in the middle of this shark attack.
What's really interesting thinking about it is like, well, why did Spielberg put it in?
Yeah.
And part of what it allows you to do is that you get to cut out of the cabin so we don't hear him actually starting the conversation with her.
Right.
Cut into the middle of the photo thing and then cut back out. And then we have Brody going away from the photo thing, and that stalled Quint in the cabin long enough. So we have this great moment where, again, Brody is coming along that ledge and runs right into Quint with the spear gun with a big music cue as he comes out.
I think you're also establishing the radio because later.
Great point.
Right? When he slams it with a baseball bat to stop Brody from calling in, it's a massive moment in their relationship.
And when just a moment before, Quint told Brody, Hooper drives the boat, Chief. Now he tells Brody,
Chief, I want you to get up on the bridge. Just take a forward steady. I've never steered a boat in my life. Just watch my hand. Take a steady, Mr. Hooper. Attach the end of this line to the first keg.
And Hooper, who was instructed to attach the line to the barrel, isn't doing that and instead heads to the cabin.
There's a bunch of mini tragedies that happen through this whole thing that leads to everything that happens at the end. And we don't know what would have happened if Hooper had listened to Quint and instead of, again, indulging his need for scientific evidence and recording and all of this, if he hadn't taken that time to go down there and check that little beeping thing and then run up there and attach the barrel, if Quint would have got off a better shot and they would have had a better opportunity to take down the shark. We'll never know. But I do think that moment, that delay is very believable and it adds a little bit of mini tragedy to this whole movie, which I think is so essential for this movie to work.
It's funny because one of the implications in this is there's, I don't think it's a huge implication, but I would say there's definitely a sense that it might have been possible for Quint to shoot it right in the head and kill it in this moment.
Possibly. Yeah.
Now, I also think that if that were really possible, you would have a big fucking elephant gun. You know what I mean? Like you would have a gun designed to shoot through very tough, thick skin through the skull of the shark, but that's not what they have. So Hooper runs below to get this beeper, which I actually think in his mind, and it doesn't end up happening this way, is that this thing has a light and a sound. And so that means that if they lose the shark completely, if the barrel's on him in the distance at night, they might be able to find him again. I think that's what he's thinking. Right. But again, it also might have meant they could have killed the shark earlier.
Right.
Every single shot is great. I know it's redundant. They're all so well constructed. Yeah. And Quint is watching the shark come towards him. The music is building.
Come in. Hooper, get clear of the barrel.
And then turns around and realizes that his barrel's not attached and Hooper is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. Great shot, right? Yeah. That empty hook.
Yeah. And Hooper is looking at this beeper, really proud of himself, and says, and this is such a revealing line, "Your turn, Quint."
Yeah.
That is jealousy. Mm-hmm. That is status. That is him feeling that he was kept down. Yeah. That is those motivations have nothing to do with Shark.
It's pettiness.
Hurry up, he's coming straight for us. Don't screw it up now.
Don't wait for me.
I love the way he delivers "Don't wait for me." It is a place of strength, which he's never addressed Quint in this way before. And I love it. Like, don't wait for me. Like I'm doing my job. You know, I love it.
There's an incredible build with the music. The shark is coming closer. Brody is watching. I love that Brody is saying,
"Kill it, Quint. Kill it."
Because he wants this fucking thing dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he knows and I think this is important, which is why Spielberg lives it in there. As you said, it's the impression that if this barrel had been attached in time, Quint could have killed the shark from a headshot.
Yes.
Now, we don't know, but could have. And having Brody be like, "Do it now." As the audience, we go, "Oh man, they missed the moment."
Yep.
What's going to happen?
Shoot! What were you doing? You knew I had to get a clean shot right in the head.
I think Dreyfuss looks really graceful running up to that bridge.
Bring it on the barrel! I'm coming around again!
I find this so joyful, this moment. It is an incredible film moment.
You've been naming some of these themes.
Yes.
And I will name this theme because it's my second favorite theme in the movie. This is the Raiders. This is a Raiders of the Lost Ark theme type of theme because it's joyful, it's jubilant, it's hopeful that they'll catch this thing. And I love it because it's a trick. It's a trick on the audience that you can start to feel it's possible that they're going to catch this shark. And we know that Dreyfuss is going to come near death. And we know that Quint is going to die. And so I love that they give you a little tease that it's possible that these three guys could have taken care of the shark.
This moment is one of the arguments I have about people saying, well, the Jaws is a horror film. And I'm like, well, it is a horror film.
They're a horror, yeah.
But this is as pure adventure as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny when Williams saw the first cut of the film, he went, oh, this is a pirate movie. And this is a pirate movie cue.
Yep.
And this, by the way, is John Williams's favorite cue in the whole movie. Is right here.
It's so great.
Steven Spielberg says that 50% of the movie's success is John Williams.
I would agree with that.
I totally disagree. This is terrible math, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because if you do the math that way, and let's say you give some of the successes for Robert Shaw, and some of the success, that means that Steven Spielberg ends up being less than 50% of the reason that this movie is successful, and I cannot go with you there. Steven Spielberg has to be at least 50%. He can't be John Williams 50 and Spielberg 30. Doesn't work for me.
All right.
But anyway, and now we're chasing the barrel, and then the barrel goes down right in front of us. And the music that was so joyful a second before, it also goes down. And we have this close-up of Hooper angry, and the theme is unhappy. An incredible shot of Quint on the pulpit holding that spear gun, looking just totally pissed off and grumpy against the sunset. So good.
I have to say, like you say, sometimes we don't see things the same way. I see him looking at Hooper with this self-satisfied grin of like, if I'm right.
I agree. Yeah.
Right? Because Hooper said, and of course Quint didn't hear it, but Hooper said down in the boat when he was getting the beeper ready, he said like, "Your turn, Quint," right? And he thought I'm going to get you back. But there's Quint just calmly leaning against the ropes, looking at him, and I love it. And Dreyfuss plays it like, God damn it, like it's so great to have that moment between them. And I love the way this is shot. Jesus Christ, the cinematography here and the color, beautiful. Yeah.
Well, and Brody's still like, so we're going to go in now, right? We got to go in, and they're like, no, now we got a barrel in him. We have to stay out. And again, as I said in the book, they go in every night for dinner.
Yeah, craziness.
And Spielberg's one of his thing is once they go out, they have to stay out. And this is one of the reasons we can't go back in.
What do you think about the fade? Because he's saying all this, and then this feels like a Francis Ford Coppola cut that he fades from Brody saying we're going in right to it just fades. Brody's protestations are not addressed. He doesn't keep going. There's not a extended scene where they battle about it. It just kind of fades, and it's later that night, which I think is a fascinating cut to have in a film like this at this point.
Again, it's an editing thing. It's a classic editing rule. You cannot fade out mid-line.
Yeah.
That's against the rules. And so it does stand out. I have it in my notes too. And to me, it feels about Brody's ineffectualness.
Yeah.
He is not in control here.
I agree.
He's not even control of the shot that's going to fade out on him mid-line, Right. Like, that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, but we could radio in and get a bigger boat out here.
So, the barrel saves Jaws.
Oh, wow.
This concept of because the barrels exist because the shark doesn't work.
Right.
They cannot all of Spielberg's complicated monster movie storyboards and shot lists that he worked out, the shark's going to do this and the shark's going to do that. Shark couldn't do any of it. Mm. And so it became, how do we create the shark without the shark? And the barrels are the answer. And they work unbelievably well. In fact, better than the shark itself would have worked. Mm. And now we cut to one of the most iconic scenes in film. It's not only one of the most iconic scenes in film, but it actually has two iconic scenes in the same scene, which doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Which is we're in the galley at night, and Brody reaches up to touch his head because he had cut it earlier on.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is sometimes you write things in reverse. I think they added Brody hurting his head earlier in the film because they needed a reason to get into comparing wounds and scars later on in the film. Because that's what gets us there. Because he touches his head, and that leaves Quint to say,
Don't you worry about it, Chief. It won't be permanent. Want to see something permanent? Boom, boom, boom.
and he pulls out his false teeth, which is really Robert Shaw's false teeth.
Yeah.
You know what I noticed this last time that I never noticed before? I noticed shit in the IMAX theater, by the way, watching the movie again in about earlier parts that I hadn't noticed before.
Okay.
but one of the things I noticed was that Robert Shaw never puts his tooth back in for the rest of the movie.
Oh, wow. Hey, you see him wrap it up and put it in this. Oh, wow. That never occurred to me.
Me neither. That's why the Jaws is the gift that keeps on giving, John.
Hey, Hoop, you want to feel something permanent? Just put your hand underneath my cap. Just feel a little lump. Knock on Nolan, St. Patty's Day, Boston.
And now we're into this scene that's been imitated. We talked about it in Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
We talked about it's been done in The Simpsons. It's done in Scrubs. Lethal Weapon 3, they do this scene. Between Rene Russo and Mel Gibson, they do this scene. Is the comparing scars.
I got that beat.
And he pulls out his arm and says,
Some moray eel. Bit right through my wetsuit.
and then I just had to play Quint's line because I love what Robert Shaw does with language in this accent. He goes,
Entered an arm wrestling contest in an Oki bar in San Francisco. Got to the semifinal. Celebrating my third wife's demise. Big Chinese fella, he pulled me right off.
I love my third wife's demise. It's so damn funny. And then Hooper slides over and puts his leg up on the table. And I love Quint's reaction to the leg on the table. Like there's a smile and it's just, they're both drunk and it's just great.
I love Shaw tapping the ankle, tapping the ankle or calf as a kind of acceptance, right? It's almost like the dad, like going, good job, kid, or oh, that's cool. And why do you think they're bonding? Let me ask you a question. Why do you think that? Is it seeing the shark? Have they gone through some kind of initiation, the three of them together now that they are bonded because they've seen the shark? Is this what opens the door? Because I mean, Quint gave no indication that he was wanting to have a connection with Hooper in any way, shape, or form. So what do you call it? Take him as ballast, Chief. But here he like opens the door to this, and Hooper and him start sharing their experiences, which I think is a great moment in the movie. And I'm asking you that in real time of the film, but also ask you construction-wise, why does Spielberg choose to put this moment here? Is it to make us care about them just before we're going to put them through hell?
So let me start with the first question because here's my opinion on it. Obviously, this is all our opinions, but I think Quint is very, very quick to put people in boxes.
Yes.
He's a rich kid, spoiled, college educated. It's all full of shit. And he's experienced people that are wealthy and well-educated that he felt weren't worth a damn, which, there are plenty of wealthy, well-educated people who aren't.
Yeah.
True. But I also think Quint at his heart respects competence and skill, particularly competence and skill on a boat. I think Quint is a really good fisherman. He really knows his shit in his Quint sort of way. Right. And I think Hooper, despite some weirdnesses that have happened, he has driven the boat well. And I particularly think the moment of hook up another barrel, I'm coming around again, is him taking charge of his thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think now in this scene, this is a moray. He was in the water bit by a moray eel. Yeah. Like this isn't a bullshit thing. Yeah. And I think I think Quint is seen in Hooper like things that he can find ways to respect.
Yes.
That's what I think. Yeah. As far as structurally, A, we've had a thrill. So now we need to come down a little bit. And B, and we know we need to get into the USS Indianapolis speech.
Yes.
But we want to ease, again, you frequently write backwards. Because like I said, it's like, oh, I need a reason for them to start talking about wounds. So I give Brody a wound 2 scenes earlier.
Right.
And now I need a reason to get into the Indianapolis scene. And the tattoo is the reason to get into the Indianapolis scene. So I construct the comparing scars scene in order to have a transition to the Indianapolis scene. And I also think there are so many elements that are happening here. And one is Hooper, what you just brought up, Hooper and Quint bonding a little bit, and Brody being on the outside, which is really, really important. And then we go into this really heavy thing that's going to really explain Quint's character. So that's kind of my feeling about why it happens at this moment.
Yeah, I think that's great points. I've always seen it as we're going to give you one last moment between the three of them where they really connect, because we want you to care about these characters fully before we put them into the danger. Because remember, we've only had, 8 minutes of screen time with Quint? Like, there's not a lot of screen time with Robert Shaw until we get onto the boat. So it's the boat where you got to really establish Quint as a character and what he can do. And so having him put down these walls after they've been drinking, which is very believable. A lot of people get, a lot of hard asses get real soft once they start drinking because their walls that they've built start to come down. And so having him open the door to the Hooper thing, I think you're right. They found a language they can speak finally, right? Which is the trading of scars. It's a manly thing most of the time. Although, as you said, Rene Russo did that in Lethal Weapon 3, but
very manly. She was very manly.
She was she was a badass.
As you say, Quint kind of pats his ankle, and then Quint pulls his own leg up onto the table, puts it on top of Hooper's leg, and shows his own scar.
That's the Thresher. You see that? Chief Thresher's tail.
Thresher? It's a shark.
And then this moment, which I think is so essential to the scene, this moment where they both pull away from each other to kind of size each other up again and are themselves how can I say this? They are themselves non-verbally commenting on the surprise of their connection. And then it goes into,
you want to drink? Drink to your leg?
I'll drink to your leg.
Okay, so we drink our legs.
And we're now happy that this tension has possibly been buried between them because we want to like all of them and we want to cheer for all of them against the shark.
The moment of them, I'll drink to your leg, you drink to my leg. Yeah. Okay, so we drink to our legs, is so fun and funny and cute. And there's such a connection happening with them. It's a lovely moment.
Yes.
And of course, as this is happening, as they're toasting each other's legs, we see Brody very quietly look down to his side, slightly pull up his shirt, revealing a tiny scar, which actually is Roy Scheider's appendectomy scar.
Oh, wow.
And then choose not to say anything about it.
So in my head canon,
yes,
this is what led him to leave New York. Is he was attacked by a suspect with a knife and almost died. And this is the thing that got him to leave New York and Ellen to want him to leave New York and take the job at Amity. That's how I look at the scar. And I think, because the moment is played for comedy, which is great. It's a great moment of comedy, obviously. But I also think you can create a headcanon here that there's a reason he looks at the scar but then doesn't say anything.
Absolutely.
And I think it's because that scar is not a place to be shared at in this lighthearted moment that's happening between these two guys, because it's a heavy scar. Now, ironically, it's going to be this tattoo that leads us into a very hard moment. And I think if the shark hadn't come at the end of the Indianapolis speech, I think Brody would have revealed what the scar was. And so that's what I created in my head canon to explain that moment. Beyond the comedic beat of that moment, I think there's a character moment as well that is, to me, makes me like Brody even more, you know?
I agree. So first of all, our headcanon is almost exactly the same because I've always thought it was a bullet wound.
Oh,
like
yeah,
I've always gone
bullet wound. Good call.
Yeah, I've always got and what I like about, and of course this is just what you and I have made up. This is not,
of course.
What I do. The only fact that I know is that this is his appendectomy scar. But what I like about the bullet wound is that it is actually way cooler than all of the scars that they're comparing.
Yes.
And he chooses not to bring it up. And my interpretation is slightly different. Is this is where I totally feel like Brody. This is what an introvert does. Because I've been Brody in this situation all the time where guys are getting macho and talking smack about each other or bragging. And you know me, I do not like bragging. I'm very uncomfortable with it. And I would totally not say something exactly like this in this circumstance when two extroverted, status-driven guys are doing this thing. I would kind of go, I don't think I'm going to get involved in it, you know? And that's why that Quint and Hooper are bonding. Brody is now the outsider.
Yeah.
I got the creme de la creme.
And then Hooper unbuttons his shirt, revealing his ridiculously hairy chest.
Yes.
Hey, see that?
You're wearing a sweater.
Which I think is a hilarious throwaway line.
Right there. Mary Ellen Moffat. She broke my heart.
And everyone laughs, in particularly Hooper, who finds this joke hysterical.
Yeah.
What's that one? What? That one there, on your arm. Oh, well, it's a tattoo. I got that removed.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Mother.
And then Quint does a really interesting thing, which he pats Hooper's arm right before he says what it is. Here's my interpretation.
Okay.
And I'm curious what yours is. My interpretation is I think Quint knows that Hooper knows about the USS Indianapolis. So that when he says it, he knows that Hooper's going to know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I see it, and that's totally possible. I see it that, you know, because I've been with guys who have talked about their experiences in the military and things that they've experienced. Like when they talk about real shit, it's playtime is over. And so I think what he's doing, because like when he tapped Hooper's leg in that moment when they're sharing scars, it's a tap of acceptance.
Yeah.
When he not grabs, and I don't mean grabs in a hard way. I mean, maybe even touches Hooper's arm to stop his giggling. It's like when your dad just goes, okay, that's enough. Like it was fun. It's enough. And he's about to,
I can see that.
And because it's a serious thing that he's about to talk about. And I think he doesn't want any laughs or giggles, and he's feeling this desire to talk about it. So he wants it. He wants seriousness around it, is what I think is.
To Hooper, that's the USS Indianapolis.
And Hooper, man, it's like he sobers up.
Yes. Quickly.
Right away.
Mm-hmm.
To be very clear, the USS Indianapolis is not in the book. Quint has no tragic, horrible experience with sharks that he's carrying around. And in this sense, the character of Quint in the book is much more like a straight up fisherman tough guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's not an epic Ahab kind of figure. It was funny. We talked about the original casting idea of Lee Marvin. That works perfectly for the Quint that's in the book. You know, tough, working class fisherman guy. Doesn't work for this. The person who came up with the idea for the USS Indianapolis is Howard Sackler, the first screenwriter who wrote Great White Hope.
Oh.
But he only wrote like a paragraph.
Right.
And Spielberg is like, I need a lot more than this paragraph. I think this idea is great, but it needs to be a big speech. Right. And Sackler was starting another gig, and he's like, yeah, I'm not. Do whatever you want with it. So after various people taking cracks at this Indianapolis speech, Spielberg goes to good friend and well-known crazy man, John Milius. John Milius, who wrote the screenplay for Apocalypse Now, who directed Conan the Barbarian, liked to carry guns and surf. I mean, John Milius is a lot.
Yes.
Stayed up all night. My picture is with a full bottle of whiskey, but I don't have any evidence of that. But it seems likely, possibly a gun nearby. He wrote the whole thing out longhand, 10 pages on a yellow legal pad, handed it to Spielberg. Spielberg's like, this is great, but it's kind of long. They give it to Robert Shaw. Robert's like, I can't do this. This is too long. Yeah. It's too long. And so he stays up all night. And Robert Shaw, as you mentioned, as you described, is a playwright, a novelist. Yeah. He cut it down to 5 pages. Spielberg looks at it and says, great. And Robert Shaw comes up to Steven Spielberg and says, listen, when we do this scene, is it okay with you if I have, a drink or two, just a little bit of a buzz on? Now, Spielberg said, Spielberg's 26, 27 at this point. And this is an established actor. And so he says, okay, that sounds good. Now, Spielberg says, today, I would never, ever do this. This is a terrible, terrible decision. And apparently, Shaw came in the next day, plowed, incoherent, couldn't act the scene, They got nothing. That night, Robert Shaw calls him up and apologized and basically says, "So did I do the speech?" And they're like, "No." Next day, he showed up sober, nailed it.
Yeah. I think it was in 2 takes.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Which is, it's a heavy speech.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe because he edited it, cut it down, there was a lot of Robert Shaw in that speech.
Yeah.
The person, not Quint, Robert Shaw, the human being. And so, I think the reason Robert works so much better than Lee Marvin is Lee Marvin doesn't do vulnerable.
Yeah.
Even when he does vulnerable, he doesn't do vulnerable. Right? And so, like Michael Madsen said in Reservoir, you're a big Lee Marvin fan, aren't you?
Yeah.
The gift of Robert Shaw is that he can convey all the tenets of a manhood man, a man's man, but he has this vulnerability that courses. Even in Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3, which I rewatched again about an hour the other night, there's a real vulnerability to him. In The Sting, right? He is this guy they have to take down, and he is scary. He is chilling.
Yeah.
But when he gets caught, there is a vulnerability there that is surprising and genuine. And so his vulnerability here, I think, is so essential to make the speech work. He walks that line between serious and pain. And I think it makes him, I think it's the reason he is so beloved as a character for so many Jaws heads, because of this speech, the way he delivers the speech. And it's an important element to him. And I love that Robert Shaw had to go through his process. He wasn't ready to face it. He had to make the mistake. He had to ask for a second chance. And that motivated him to deliver one of the greatest speeches ever delivered in the history of cinema, and so authentically.
Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief. He was coming back from the island of Tinian to Lady, just delivered the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb.
I have some information about the actual USS Indianapolis. It was a heavy cruiser. It was launched in 1931, and this was a real mission. And all they were told was that they were doing a critical shipment, and there was a rumor that it contained a secret weapon. And it wasn't the entire atomic bomb. It was actually parts for Little Boy. That's one of the 2 bombs.
Right.
It was loaded. The box was loaded in San Francisco under 24-hour guard. And at this time, the U.S. had actually broken Japan's communications code. So they were reading Japanese radio signals, and they knew that submarines were in the area that this cruiser was going through, but they did not inform the captain of the Indianapolis. And so the captain of the Indianapolis never requested an escort because he didn't know that other people knew.
Wow.
1,100 men went into the water. The vessel went down in 12 minutes.
It really did go down about that fast.
Yeah.
There probably was only 800 men who went into the water because 300 men went down with the ship.
Yeah.
There were also, by the way, a few lifeboats, and a few men had life vests on, but a whole bunch of people were just swimming.
I obviously, the first time I watched the movie, I got this speech in terms of understanding the pain, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was older that I really understood the magnitude of this speech and the weight of this speech, because it's very much tied to the military. It's very much tied to that idea of being left alone by the higher ups and how you have to figure it out because you get caught for whatever reason. You're in some blind spot of the higher ups, and this is what happens. And people die, and people you fought alongside with or served alongside with die. So there's so much weight to the speech, and Robert Shaw delivers it so eloquently, so authentically. It's amazing. In even the setup is really well done in how he's establishing just now this where we've stopped, and even the way, as you said, the way he speaks when he says "bam," the way he says "bam," it carries an extra resonance in how he talks about it.
What we didn't know was our bomb mission had been so secret. No distress signal had been sent.
That feeling of aloneness, the feeling that no help is coming, I think is critical to the emotional impact of this speech.
Yeah, 100%. And again, the framing here is amazing. Another director shoots him in close-up, right? It's just his face delivering the speech. And we're going back to Brody. Like we'll back to Brody for his reaction, then back to the speech. Maybe you even hear a little bit of the speech off camera as we're watching Brody react to it. Or we go to a shot of Hooper, Dreyfuss. What Spielberg does, set the fucking camera here, and again, does his foreground background thing where Quint is in the foreground telling us the speech, and we are feeling the speech like we're sitting next to him on that bench. And we're watching Dreyfuss in awe react to the speech in small ways, micro ways, as this light is hanging above Dreyfuss. I think it's genius. It's genius. Even Shaw taking off his cap and throwing it down to tell the story because he wants it clear as day, wants his face clear as day for Brody to grasp the story he's telling him. It's fantastic.
So my understanding is Richard Dreyfuss says he's never felt power coming off an actor like he did from Robert Shaw in this scene.
You can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell watching his
like his facial expression. I actually, again, this is my editor eyes. I don't think that's Matt Hooper.
Yeah,
I think that's Richard Dreyfuss.
100% that's Richard Dreyfuss. Yes.
Well, this is, again, just to point it, this is what editors do all the time. It's like, what am I seeing? How is that feeling? The other thing about it is that Spielberg knows enough not to fuck with it. Mm-hmm. He's just like, he's not, I mean, we talked about it, his incredible camera moves and all of this stuff that he's doing throughout the movie. He didn't do any of that. He's like, I'm putting the camera in exactly the right spot.
Yeah.
And then I'm just letting this guy do his job.
Very first light, Chief. Sharks come cruising. So we formed ourselves into tight groups. You know, it's kind of like old squares in a battle, like you see in a calendar, like the Battle of Waterloo. And the idea was, shark comes to the nearest man, that man he starts pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away.
This pause that he has between sometimes the shark go away, sometimes he wouldn't go away. The pause is essential. It is the shift in the story. And now he's going to tell you about the horrible things he experienced. Because yes, when the shark went away, that's great.
Yeah.
But it's when he didn't go away that this is the things that I experienced. These are the things that I saw. This is what you can expect.
For whatever reason, the image of the squares like the Battle of Waterloo, that like creates a visual to put me in the water in this situation in this weird way. I think it's really powerful to me.
And I think it's important that Shaw's performance here, he is chuckling or smiling at certain moments.
Yeah.
Like a person does who has lived through a horrific thing when they're retelling the story. Because they can kind of laugh about it. Not laugh about it in terms of diminishing its power. It's more of that thing that you survived it. So you can talk about it in a certain way. It's essential. If he had just delivered it really seriously, I don't think it would have had as much power. Having him vacillate between the two, you're caught up in the story so that when he hits you with the double whammy by the end, you feel that. Because you've been liking this guy and you've been liking him telling the story. And then when the story makes that turn, you're just like, oh my God. It's so smart.
You know what we haven't said about Quint, but I actually think it's worth mentioning. I think Quint, in his own way, is a raconteur, which is a word I don't think I've ever actually used.
I agree.
But and this is what we hear about Ben Gardner, the guy who he met, who obviously we see his head, is like Quint's a storyteller.
Yes.
I think with the fisherman at the bar, he is a captivating storyteller.
You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes. Black eyes, like a doll's eye. When he comes at you, doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white, and then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming. The ocean turns red, and in spite of all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in, they rip you to pieces.
These black, lifeless eyes, the bite, the squeals, everything about it is what stays with him. I mean, he's essentially relaying his trauma. We talk about trauma all the time nowadays, but like this is essentially what he's gifting these guys is his trauma, his experience as authentically as he can.
What's interesting about his description,
and the visuals are amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, totally. Is that it's a description of him getting killed by a shark, which he didn't.
Right.
So This is it's totally bringing back trauma. It's everything you said, but it's Quint at night, drenched in sweat, lying in bed, imagining over and over and over again his own death.
Yeah.
That's what this moment is. This is his death, because he doesn't describe it as, I watched Herbie Robinson from Cleveland get eaten by a shark. He's saying, this is This is me that this is happening to. By the way, the other thing, I won't hit it hard because I know I've hit it hard enough already, but the lifeless eyes, dead eyes, black eyes that don't even seem to be living until they bite you fit perfectly into the mindless eating machine that just eats and swims and makes little sharks.
It's true.
And now it's being delivered in the most emotional speech in the most terrifying thing. And so it solidifies this as the reality. And this next line, I really think it's everything you said earlier when we started this, of Robert Shaw's ability to portray vulnerability.
By the end of that first dawn, lost 100 men.
And you could hear that waver in his voice,
I don't know how many sharks, maybe 1,000. I don't know how many men, they average 6 an hour. On Thursday morning, Chief, I bumped into a friend of mine, Herbie Robinson from Cleveland, baseball player, bosun's mate.
That's just great writing.
Yeah.
It's just the rhythms of it. I have a perfect image of Herbie Robinson from Cleveland in my head now.
It personalizes it for the audience too. We've all had a Herbie Robinson.
I thought he was asleep. Reached over to wake him up. Bobbed up and down in the water. It was like a kind of top. Upended. Well, he'd been bitten in half below the waist.
Pay attention to how he delivers this, right? When we cut, as you said, when we cut back, we cut to Brody for the first time. When we cut back to him, all the smiles are gone on Quint's face. All the chuckles, it's all gone. And he starts to tell you about this whole situation. And it isn't until we go back to him again when he talks about, I thought he was asleep, but he wasn't. They bit him in half. He has a little bit of a smile because he's almost smiling at himself for being stupid enough to think he was asleep.
Yeah.
When he had seen all this death around. He had tricked himself into thinking, oh, he's probably just asleep in the middle of the ocean where 100 people have just been taken and 6 an hour are going down. I'm going to delude myself that he might be asleep because what springs eternal in the human breast is hope. And in that moment, he's, in my opinion, he is almost laughing at himself for being stupid enough to think that this kid was asleep. And I, again, go back to this thing where I think he was a lower man on the totem pole on that ship, an ensign or whatever you want to say, whatever. I can't remember the ranking.
He was a seaman. He was a seaman, yeah.
And so I think what is the way they would do this is that the higher ups would align themselves on the farther outer edges of it to save the young men so that they would live. And I think that's why he was able to see so many of these guys taken, is because he was on the inner ring of the circles, because he's a seaman, a lower rank, and you have to defend the lower ranks. And so I think that's why he witnessed as much as he did. And so when he sees his friend, who was probably a fellow seaman as well, bobbing up and down, this is a guy you probably cut potatoes with and swabbed decks with.
Yeah.
Did all this kind of stuff. And it's great. It's so personal.
Well, and I think too, it's the bobbing up and down and flipping over.
Yes.
And seeing the underside. Because to me, I think this is what he wakes up to screaming, is that image, 100%. Like that haunts him.
Noon the fifth day, Mr. Hooper, Lockheed Ventura. So he swung in low and he saw us. He was a young pilot, a lot younger than Mr. Hooper anyway. He saw us and he come in low, and 3 hours later, a big fat PBY comes down and started to pick us up. That was the time I was most frightened, waiting for my turn. I'll never put on a life jacket again.
That idea of being most frightened waiting for your turn, that sounds 100% human and right to me.
Yeah.
So 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men come out. The Sharks took the rest June the 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
Incredible.
Incredible. And I love the way he delivers that last line. It is him closing his heart back up again to these guys. When he says, anyway, we delivered the bomb, and then he takes a sip of his drink with a smile on his face, right? I've let you into this, and now I'm closing the door on it. And it's that smile is him doing that. And I think it's great. It's so great. It's such a great way to end the speech. It isn't just lingering there with them all staring at each other uncomfortable. He's the one that let you into the story, and now he's going to politely move you out. And it's great. It's great.
So I will now give you some more info on the actual USS Indianapolis. And in no way am I trying to say that a whole bunch of humans didn't get killed by sharks. It's the most humans who've ever been killed by sharks at one point, as far as I know, documented in history. That it really is. I'm not trying to minimize that. But it also isn't exactly what we think it is. They were in the water for 5 days. Most of the deaths were from exposure, malnutrition, and dehydration because you got a lot of dudes with no life jackets, treading water for 5 days. Humans can't. Humans, and then the hot sun. It's the middle of June, So then what happened is a human would die, and a shark would come in and start eating the dead body. And that, because they're eating the dead body, now more sharks are coming in because there's more food in the water, there's more blood in the water, and more sharks come in. And there were a lot of sharks that came in. And they started to eat. The dead bodies are right next to the human bodies, and they look the same. So I'm not minimizing it in any way.
Right.
But the estimations are probably somewhere between a few dozen, at most 150 people were actually killed by sharks.
Wow.
But a whole bunch more people were eaten by sharks. And Quint's number exactly right. Out of the 1,100 men that were on the Indianapolis, 316 survived. And then the aftermath of this speech, just in sun silence. And I love the choice that they play a little bit of whale song.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? It's a whale.
It might be George and Gracie before they swim all the way back over to the Cetacean Institute in Sausalito.
The whale song is so great to break the tension, right? And I think a little bit, I don't know if this is right or not, Steve, but it kind of pushes back on this idea of like, well, be afraid of everything in the water. Because the way they talk about the whale song, there's like a smile about it,
Yeah.
So taking us out of the shark moment into this other moment, which is great.
And then Quint sings as he did before.
Well, do you fetch my nice lady? Hello, do you ladies of Spain?
And I have a theory about this song, which is the first time he sang it was when he was talking about the shark cage and Hooper going into the water with the shark.
Yeah.
I believe Farewell and Adieu is death.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what he's singing about. If you go into the water with the shark in the cage, you're going to die. Yeah. Farewell and adieu. Yeah. And now he's just told this other story about death.
Yeah.
I think it is the darkest theme in this movie is Farewell and Adieu, you fair Spanish ladies. And then we start singing Show Me the Way to Go Home.
Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed.
And remember what I said Spielberg said was the theme of the movie, is going home.
Yeah.
Did you sing this song on Boy Scout trips and camping trips?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, I obviously heard it in the movie first, and then would sing it in the. But I love that it's like Quint's song is one of, as you said, death, and Hooper, who hasn't experienced this death, he goes to this other song that's more of a kind of a livelier thing, or a more childish song, so to speak. And I think that's the difference between the two guys. But it's that song that Quint also joins in on to sing as well, because they've all bonded now. And just for a brief few seconds, Steve, these three guys are on the same page from three different walks of life. And they've reverted back to being like kids again, singing this song at camp. And it's great. It's so great.
I genuinely think, even though we just listened to this incredibly heavy speech, I genuinely think we've almost forgotten about the shark that's out there.
Yes.
I think we're just with these guys. Yeah. And to me, it's, being the son and grandson of Boy Scouts, like this song was one of those songs, that people it's camp, they're at camp. And I love you could watch all three of them. In fact, I'll just say watch all three of them. But the one in particular I'm thinking of is Roy Scheider, who was really on the outside during the Scar comparison. listen to this unbelievably heavy speech from Quint, and then his smile as he comes over and joins them at the table is lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then right in the midst of this bonding, and like I said, I think we've forgotten about the shark.
Yeah.
We cut outside and we see that barrel come into frame and we hear the beeping as it's heading towards them and they're singing. It's an incredible film moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you feeling good? Did you think, hey, we're happy? Did you think we were happy? Oh, wait, there's a shark.
Yep.
Oh, so great.
So before we get to the next sequence, I have another piece of it. Let's give an update on Steven Spielberg, shall we?
Okay.
Because we've been discussing Show Me the Way to Go Home, and he says that the theme of the movie is home. Well, he ain't home. He made the choice to never leave the island once he got on it. So he has been trapped on the island this whole time.
Yeah.
Everything is going wrong. We know the shark's not working. We're shooting days and days and days out in the ocean and not getting anything. The crew is asking when they're going to be, because you sign on for a 55-day shoot, and now it's many, many months. And the crew's like, when is this job going to be over?
Right.
And Spielberg says he felt like Captain Ahab. Like he felt like, because he's the guy who is forcing all these people to stay on the island and fail over and over again. And again, the guy's 27.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, and he doesn't know if they're going to get fired. And the only thing he knows is that if he ever stops shooting, he'll be fired. So he has to just keep shooting.
That's great.
Well, Coppola said the same thing when he was doing Godfather. Is that the only way he can make sure that he keeps working, keep shooting, don't ever stop. By the way, there was one story where they're like, they're all eating, they're having lunch, and Roy Scheider starts a huge food fight.
Oh, wow.
Including a full pie in Spielberg's face. It was a huge tension breaker. Like everyone felt much, much better.
Oh, that's great.
and I connect that food fight, the energy of the silliness, to what happens the second time they sing Show Me the Way to Go Home.
Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed.
Because the tempo changes. And I think, Hooper cannot hold his liquor. Let's be real clear about that. He's beyond out of it at this point and singing. And as this happens, we hear something. And there's like a weird banging and they haven't noticed it yet. And then things start to buckle. And then you see Quint notice first. Hooper's totally gone.
Yeah.
And Quint, I love that he's also clearly intoxicated, says,
Start the engine.
And Hooper just jumping over that table. It's like, oh my God, it's on. Yeah. Hooper falls at the wheel. Brody falls backwards into water, which is very scary. It's very scary on a boat when it's suddenly filled with water.
Yeah.
And then the lights flicker and then go out.
You ate the light.
Terrific.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Even that little excuse me.
Yeah.
As they're moving past each other in the darkness is great.
And Quint has opened fire on the shark with a rifle, muttering to himself.
Quint, what are you doing? Don't waste your time, Quint. Come on.
What's wrong with this shit?
Because he's still in his trauma.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. And then Hooper's like, what are you doing? It's such a waste of time. And he just keeps doing it. Yeah.
Again, we have Brody coming back. It's a wide shot. He's coming back along that edge, slips a little bit, comes towards the camera. This is one of those perfect Steven Spielberg shots. He looks completely freaked out.
Yeah.
Like right on the edge of panic. And he's on the bow. I have no idea why this bag is on the bow or why we're doing this here, except that the shot is fantastic.
Yep.
He pulls out his revolver, and the music, which has been super tense, calms down when he has the gun in his hand. Like, to me, it's very clear that this is his safety blanket at this moment.
Oh, yeah.
And as he lifts the revolver, the camera tilts with the lift so that it reveals Hooper in the background. So we have Martin in the foreground, really panicked, holding the gun, and Hooper in the background. Again, perfectly constructed shot.
You okay? Hey, Martin. You okay?
He doesn't answer.
And as he says this, and other people have noticed this as well in the past, a shooting star is going past them in the sky, which I have no idea why it was either added or they caught it with this shot and left it in the film, because the shooting star goes right by Roy Scheider's head. And it feels like it's added, but it could have been authentically caught when they went up for that shot, and Spielberg liked the idea of having that in there.
So patron Ryan Lieb has the exact same question as you and wanted to know, was it a special effect that was added later? Or did they just happen to catch this? And it is, in fact, an optical that was added in post.
Yeah.
And Spielberg's done this a few. I forget. I saw a list. This adding a shooting star is a thing he's done in many movies. We have another question from Paul Sevilla, one of our great question askers on Patreon. And he says, let's talk about the shark. Do you think the creature in Jaws is malevolent or simply acting on instinct? Then he says, let's go a little deeper. Does the shark in Jaws truly deserve to die? Or is it simply following its nature? I understand that it needs to die from a human perspective, but does it deserve to die? And then he adds, just to make this controversial, Superman, excluding Snyder's version of Kal-El, would refuse to kill the shark and he'd bring it to a galactic zoo or something.
Oh, how dare you? Snyder's Superman would not kill the shark just to kill the shark. Cut it out. But I wouldn't say the shark is malevolent, because remember, you're in his territory in the water. So if you're going to be in his territory in the water, he's got a right to do what he needs to do. If he sees you as a threat, because you've shot him with a damn spear gun and attached a barrel, and then you just were shooting him with your rifle, like, you're a threat in his water. So he's got a right to defend himself. So I wouldn't say the shark is malevolent. It is unfortunate that the shark has killed Chrissy and killed the young boy. I think the only kill, well, I guess that's fair. I guess you could say that. As I'm talking, I'm kind of honing my ideas here, but like, I don't see him as malevolent, but I do see him as a threat. And so you've gone out there to try to neutralize the threat, but you're in his territory. So it's doing what it needs to do to survive, as any animal would. Because if a shark could walk and started showing up at Amity, I'm sure Brody would want to take that shark out. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it could make for an interesting Jaws 4, or Jaws 5 or something. Jaws 5. So obviously I think that real sharks are not malevolent. Real sharks are just sharks. I think there's a pretty strong argument that certainly at this point in the movie, this shark is trying to kill them.
Yeah.
It isn't hungry. It's not attacking because it's hungry. It's trying to kill these people. Right. Whether or not it was malevolent when it ate Chrissy, I think the movie tends to say it was. I mean, that's what the movie is telling us, that this shark is evil. And I also think if you are physically threatened, if someone is coming to kill you, then I have the right to defend myself. Yeah. As far as the Superman thing is concerned, the reason that Superman can take him to the zoo is that Superman can pick up this shark, and this shark is no threat to Superman.
Yeah.
So sure, Superman would choose not. I think if I had the power not to kill this shark, I wouldn't kill this shark. But you have to kill this shark. The shark is coming to kill you. That's it. At the end of this moment, we have Hooper up at the wheel. We have Brody clutching his gun to him, looking completely freaked out. And Quint is singing. I think we're slowly moving Quint around the bend a little bit. Oh, yeah. And I think this is one of them,
100% agree with you.
So now, after this very intense night, it's the next day, and we've got Hooper and Quint down underneath the deck working on the motor.
Right? They're coming together even more now. They've put down their issues with each other, and they're working together as a team. And there's something powerful in that as a balance to what we'd had when they first got on the ship.
Well, and I don't think Quint would have predicted that Hooper would know how to work on an old, fishing boat diesel engine or whatever this thing is,
Right, yeah.
And Brody's up on the wheel, and we're having all sorts of engine problems, and then the barrel pops up.
Quint. There it is. What do you say, Chief? The barrel is up. It's right in the stern.
And they all come out and look, and it's just sitting there, John.
Yeah.
And I think it not moving is scary in its own way.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially because the body movement of Brody on top. He's like, it's over there, right?
And then Quint sends Hooper out with the boat hook to grab the line.
Oh, so stressful.
And it's so scary. Just the more he leans out, the scarier it gets.
When he runs, you drop that rope or you'll lose your hands.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a really scary thought.
It's a hell of an image.
And now the rope has become scary,
Right. what is on the other end of the rope?
Well,
How
also,
far are they going to pull?
Well, and also we just heard that it's going to rip my hands off.
Right,
You
right.
know?
Yeah, exactly.
And then Quint takes the rope, and then the shark comes up, and what I think is probably one of the better shark shots.
Yeah.
And the rope pulls out through Quint's hands, leaving them bloody.
What do you think about this moment? Because we've been presented Quint as, and I guess this is a broader question because I think this moment's important. Like, we've been presented Quint from the beginning of the movie when he shows up as this kind of veteran, experienced seaman who has fought sharks and done all these things, right? Well, here he is. He tells Hooper, "Don't when the rope gets pulled, let go of the rope because I've seen man's blah, blah, blah." What happens when the shark shows up? He holds on to the rope. Whose hands are scarred up? It is Quint's. After giving the warning to Hooper, it's him who gets his hands scarred up by not listening to his own advice. So it's a fascinating thing. There are a few spots in the movie where we see Quint's seamanship actually get tested, or he gets found out to be not as and I don't want to say experienced, but not as maybe he doesn't adhere to his own rules as strongly as he wants everyone else to adhere to them.
I think that's a good point. I hadn't thought about it quite that way, but yes, Quint is not. He is a do as I say, not as I do kind of person.
Right.
I also go. I also just go like, Spielberg is reinforcing. He said that the shark could rip your hands off.
Yeah.
And now he's demonstrating that by showing it a little bit. I also just think, like it's all the little mistakes. It's like what you were saying before when Hooper stalls to go get the little beeper put on the barrel. It's like that little change might have made a difference,
Yeah.
Quint not letting go of the rope. It's little tiny mistakes.
Because it's his hand that can't hold on to the thing that eventually leads to him getting eaten by the shark. And I wonder if maybe the injury to his hands didn't allow him to hold on longer when the tank rolls onto his hands. I wonder.
I would love it when Steven Spielberg, as I'm sure he will, listens to this podcast. that he goes, what I'm picturing his reaction to what you just said is, "Oh, I never thought of it, but that's good. Let's keep it. Let's assume that that's why that happened."
Or I'd like to take this whole podcast down because they're all wrong. I will redo it.
Who are these schmucks?
Where are you going?
I'm gonna make a phone call.
And he goes right into that radio room.
Hello, Mayday, Orca. Coast Guard?
And we see a hand grab the baseball bat. And then Brody turns to see Quint coming like right at him.
It's amazing because Brody is not listening to Quint. But what we see is Quint pop up into frame with a serious look on his face. And it is one of those rare moments where we see Quint like legitimately pissed. And then when, as you said, when he walks in and grabs the bat, it is almost as threatening as the shark because it looks like he's going to attack Brody. And the camera makes the shot. You can see the scars in his palms already. So, there's a stressing of that and the danger of that as well as he grabs the bat. But yeah.
The expression on Quint's face after he destroys the radio just right on the end of madness, challenging, smile. I mean, there's so much going on with that expression. And then Brody, who has always been a rock.
Yes.
Through this whole movie. We saw him very shook the night before when the sharks started hitting them, but he's very solid. Now he loses it.
That's great! That's just great! Now where the hell are we, huh?
And Quint's just nodding and smiling. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Why does Quint destroy the radio?
This is about him. He wants to take care of the shark. He does not want any help or assistance. This is him working out his Indianapolis trauma. He is going to take out this massive beast like those beasts took out his buddies in the water back on the USS Indianapolis. This is his final revenge is the way I look at it. And I don't know, there's a alternate universe where they kill the shark and Quint becomes this like peaceful guy now. He never goes out on the water anymore. And he finds another life, maybe sits down and writes a fantastic book about his experiences. There's a whole nother existence, I think, where Quint becomes a happy older man who has conquered his demons of the shark. And would be fat. Maybe even does, lectures or whatever. It's a fascinating thing to consider. But the way he goes about it here by slamming the radio, I think Brody's 100% right. He's certifiable because the madness of this confrontation has clearly consumed him in a much more subtle way than we would see in something like Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. It's a much more subtle thing for him. And I think Brody's been holding on to this anger for a while. And this is the moment that finally explodes, because this is also Brody, who is afraid of the water, now having his access to help completely cut off by the captain of the ship, which allows him to lose his mind in this moment.
So I love your scenario of Quint, years later, stable, married, has written his successful best-selling novel about his experience. I love that.
Sweater pipe.
For me, I don't think conquering the shark, I don't see revenge as a way to heal trauma, I think that I think that maybe it will, but I also think destroying the radio is not putting on a life jacket. I think he despises every part of himself that's afraid. And so the radio means that he can retreat. I mean, it's just what you said, is that he, I think I'm framing it slightly differently, but he doesn't want help. But the reason he doesn't want help was help would be admitting how afraid he is.
Admitting defeat.
Yeah. Great shot of Dreyfuss climbing into frame and says,
"Oh, boys, I think he's come back for his noon feeding. Hook me up another barrel."
And now we have that battle theme playing, and the shark goes by the boat. I think it looks great. It's a little stiff, but it still looks really, really good. And then this shot construction that happens next, and remembering that the shark barely worked, and all the things we said about having precision when you're out on the ocean because everything's moving. It's that we track Quint and the shark moving together through the windows along the ledge. Then there's the high angle following the shark as he gets the spear gun from Hooper. Then the spin move as he goes out on the pulpit and aims down on the shark. The flow is absolutely seamless from one shot to the next. Everything is framed perfectly. The actors are in exactly the right spaces. The shark's in the right space. The camera's in the right space. I mean, this must have taken forever to pull off this sequence.
Yeah. It's a great point you bring up, Steve. It's a fantastic sequence from the shots and everything. Even the shot when the barrel is going by the window and we see Scheider looking and we see it reflected in the window. That is fantastic. All of that adding on to a little bit more of the tension, more of the drama of it all. But we see that these guys are now a cohesive unit working together in going after the shark. The barrel gets tied on quickly. They're very much now in line with their goals here of going after the shark.
I'm glad you mentioned the windows because the original design of the Orca had little porthole windows that you would expect to see on a boat. And Spielberg were going, no, we need big windows because I need to be able to see the ocean and I need to be able to see people moving by and do this reflection shot that you just mentioned, And again, the music is joyful and adventurous, and we're now chasing after the Orca with Hooper driving.
Full throttle! Get me right up alongside it! I can't rev it up that high! It's not gonna take it!
Which, again, is a perfect plant that the engine is not up to full specs.
Right.
And then we hear what I call the happy sailing theme. And it's big with the orchestra, and it's powerful, and Quint is out on the pulpit. Brody is in the back strapping on his 38, which I love. I so get it. It's like, I want a goddamn gun right now.
Any kind of protection,
Again, it's joyful. And Hooper, as he's driving the boat, is smiling and says,
"Fast fish. Watch my eye."
I always see that line as a double meaning. Fast fish in the, how can I say this? Fast fish in the awe of the shark, but also fast fish in the danger of it. The fact that it is this fast will make it even more harder to kill. And maybe even glimpses the true fear of what this thing might be able to do.
Well, and I think this is one of those moments where you actually see that you can fear something and love something at the same time. Like Hooper 100%. Loves sharks.
Yeah.
And this is the most amazing shark he's ever been around,
I'll tell you something, we've talked about on the show, my fear of the simian revolution. I marvel at gorillas and monkeys and
Yeah.
I watch nature documentaries on them. I'm endlessly fascinated by them, but I'm also scared out of my goddamn mind. So it's that combination, as you were saying, and I think everyone has that one thing they fear, but also crazily respect as well.
Yeah.
For its strength, its power, its majesty.
The shark passes under the pulpit. They get another barrel at him, goes right past camera, and then Brody pops out with his revolver and opens fire on the shark as it goes by, which I'm guessing feels pretty satisfying for him.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
We're leaving 2 barrels and he's going down again.
And this is the amazing thing, is that we had this whole plan for this mechanical shark that was going to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to get these yellow barrels and drag it around. And the idea of it going down, it convinces us, wow, this shark must be really powerful going down with 2 barrels, when we've never heard of barrels and sharks before this movie. And then the barrels pop up again and just bobbing there. I think they're scary.
Well, why don't we start leading the shark into shore instead of him leading us out to sea?
Just smart logic.
It makes sense to me. Yeah. And now we grab some poles and we're heading towards the barrels. And we're going to snag both of them. And if the first time we did this was scary with Hooper, this was even more scary. And watching, now again, the words, let go of that rope because it'll rip your hands off, are in my head as I watch Brody wrap the rope around Hooper's legs. And I'm like going, oh my God, he's going to cut his legs off,
Yeah.
The rope pulls tight on Hooper's legs, and that cut to the high angle as Dreyfuss looks up and screams is just great.
I think you have to have that little bit of physical pain with one of them because you keep teasing the impending nature of one of them getting killed or killed by the shark. You have to have them feeling some sort of pain constantly. Yeah.
And again, the shark's not working, so now the rope is the shark, know?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is, I think this is like a physics-defying moment. Like we think, oh, we've got the shark. We have tied him onto our big boat, the Orca.
Yeah.
But in fact, no, the shark has the Orca because it starts pulling the boat down just easily.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really, really scary. And one of the things that happens in all the chaos is the shark is, shark handling the boat, is that those air tanks shift.
Yeah.
And Brody has to stop them.
Yeah.
Because the master filmmaker is like, don't forget about these.
At home, we got a taxidermy man. He's gonna have a heart attack when he sees what I brought him. Run him back! You're losing it clean!
And then it just goes nuts. The shark comes up.
Untie us! You pull out the transom.
And they're half underwater. The barrel hits the window. And then this amazing shot of the barrel flying past, hitting Brody, I think, in the side of the head.
Yeah.
An incredible shot.
Putting them in danger, right? You can't necessarily put him in danger of the shark, but as you said, Steven, stressed so well, the barrels, in essence, stand in the way for the shark. And even in this scene, when it hits Brody, because now Quint's hands have been scarred up, Hooper's legs have been scarred up from the rope hitting him through his jeans, and now Brody's been hit by the tank. So by the barrel, all three of them have suffered some sort of injury trying to tackle this shark.
Well, and I think the perception when you start is, well, we're on a boat. The shark is in the water.
Right.
We are safe. The shark can't come into the boat.
Right.
That's what they think. And then as time goes on, now they're being brought closer and closer to the water. Like the safety of the boat is getting broken down, as it's slowly sinking. And then it goes nuts. And then again, the shark isn't working, but we can build a giant pontoon version of the Orca, because there are 2 versions of the Orca. One that sails, one that's on pontoons that they can raise and lower and do all these other things so they can sink it and bring it back up and sink it and bring it back up. And so now we have all this craziness with water everywhere and splashing and the ropes pulling on the cleats.
Impossible! It's impossible!
Quint goes into a cabin, grabs a machete. Hooper is screaming. Quint is about to cut the rope when both cleats go. And then there's that silent moment after where they basically almost collapse in exhaustion.
And just when we think we're going to get a moment of relaxation and maybe kind of assessing what we just witnessed, those 3 barrels pop the fuck back up again, man. It's great menace.
Can't stay down with 3 barrels on it. Not with 3 barrels, he can.
And I love just the throwing the machete into the rail.
Yeah, what do you think about that shot, Steve? Because it's inconsistent with what the water's been disturbed, but it's a very placid shot. Did you like that shot as a director? Like, or does it seem incongruent with what we've seen the water do at this point? Because it's very quiet, the water from that shot.
I think I can totally see in the editing room why, because it's a punctuation.
Yes,
like it has a percussive element to sort of end a sequence. I mean, I don't think it makes any sense at all to have a machete sticking out of the railing while I'm battling a fucking shark. That doesn't seem like the spot that I want that thing to be. But the water thing, I hadn't really bumped on it. So clearly, it stuck out to you.
It
but
does.
This is
always does. Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing of like watching a movie over and over again is like once you see a thing like that, you cannot. It's like when Quint turns the case with the spear gun. Like once I saw the second thing, I can't stop seeing it. Right after he says they can't go down with 3 barrels, those 3 barrels are coming straight towards the Orca and then just goes under into silence. And Quint, the look of shock on Quint's face. Yeah. Brody, who has the pump, is just like, well, screw this. It's like, I don't want to pump this thing. And he climbs up just as the Orca gets hit. And we're in this high angle of the shark going past. And you see the whole body. And it looks like it's swimming in the shot.
Yeah. Really well done.
And Quint, now up at the wheel, to himself, like muttering almost, he says, like convincing himself, says,
Gonna draw him into the shallows. Gonna draw him in the shallow water. Gonna draw him in and drown him. We're heading in, Brody. Thank Christ.
So before we get to the next moment, here is how they did this shot, which is that we want the barrels to chase the Orca. And so the barrels are attached to a motorboat that can pull them around wherever they want it to go.
Right.
But they want it to look like the barrels are specifically chasing the Orca. And so therefore, what they did is they ran the line from the motorboat through like an eye bolt on the bottom of the Orca and then out to the barrels behind. So even if the motorboat and the Orca aren't perfectly lined up, as long as the motorboat pulls away, it will appear as if those barrels are chasing right behind the Orca. But here's the thing. They started pulling a little hard, and maybe that rope got a little bit caught in the eye bolt.
Right.
And it ripped a big plank out of the bottom of the Orca.
Oh, shit.
And the Orca starts to sink.
In real life.
In real life, they're not that far from shore. So the guy who's driving the Orca goes, I'm going to try to get this up on a sandbar before we sink. And it is going down really, really fast.
Oh, wow.
And Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw are all on the Orca.
Oh,
and
my God.
So Spielberg is yelling, he's got his little, megaphone. Yeah. He's yelling like, all right, let's get boats in the water. We need to get these actors off the boats. And the other person who is on the Orca is the sound guy. And the sound, because you got to record sound. So he's got his Nagra, which is the old like reel-to-reel sound recorder, and he's holding it up over his head as the Orca is slowly sinking. Like this is John Paul Jones level stuff. The ship is going down. They're scrambling to get the actors. Spielberg's yelling, get the actors off, get the actors off. And the sound guy holding the Nagra over his head as he's now waist deep in water yells, fuck the actors, save the sound department. First of all, anyone who's worked on a film set, that is the most perfect sound guy thing to say. Yep. Fuck the actors, save the sound department is I just adore. So, and here's the craziest piece.
Yeah.
One of the things that was on the Orca, which sank, were several reels of exposed film. Things they had shot.
Oh my God.
And they went to Bill Butler, the DP, and he went, you know what? We actually use a saline solution to develop the film. It might still be okay.
Oh.
And it was. Every reel of film, there's shots that literally went underwater that are in the movie that we just watched.
I bet Spielberg was like, thank the Lord in heaven.
But we managed to put the Orca back together so that we're back on this chase. And then Quint pushes the throttle harder, which we just heard Hooper say, don't push it that hard. It can't take it. Right. And he starts whistling.
Quint, don't put that much pressure on it.
And what does he do? He pushes it harder. We watch those RPMs go up and peak. and smoke starts coming up the engine, and Hooper goes to Quint, and Quint just, I mean, he just
he snaps.
It's like an animal at this moment.
He's gone.
And Hooper tries to stop him. He pushes Hooper away physically. Mm-hmm. And we have Quint in the foreground, Martin and Hooper on either side, barrels in the background, no music. And then Quint kind of starts bouncing, like this sort of impatient bouncing movement. And the RPMs are totally pegged. And black smoke starts coming up. And Quint starts singing. And this is what I mean. It's about death to me. Yeah. Like, that's how I feel it.
But he's doing this on purpose. This is a suicide. This is essentially a suicide. Oh, I don't want to say a suicide. I guess maybe I shouldn't say that. This is more a matter of, like, he wants to make it so not only can they not be communicated with, they will be unable to move. Like, he's a madman here. And honestly, you have to ask yourself, and having seen the movie now a million times, why don't Brody and Hooper incapacitate him? Brody has the gun. There's machetes, bats. There are ways to threaten his life, tie him up, and then you take control of the ship. But of course, we wouldn't have a movie if they did that. But I have to question why Brody, as a member of the police force, sees a madman who is in control of his life. He is the father of 2 children. Hooper is an innocent life on the boat. How is Brody not incapacitating or taking steps to incapacitate this madman? And of course, again, we wouldn't have a movie if he did. But I always have questions about that. Why that isn't something that Brody considered doing in the moment. You know, it isn't like, well, it's his boat. I guess I just have to be subject to him all the time. You're still a police officer, you know, or whatever he is, chief of police. Yeah.
First of all, in terms of Quint, for me, this is pure panic. I mean, this is just everything, every single sleepless, nightmare-filled night has haunted him forever. And at every time he made the choice to face the shark, including just destroying the radio, I think a little while ago, was no, I'm going to battle with this shark myself. Yeah. Right. And at this moment that the shark went down with 3 barrels, he lost it. He, all of those just completely overwhelmed him. As far as why don't they stop him? I think people tend to not quite understand how short certain amounts of time are. Is that, and it's funny, there's in Malcolm Gladwell's book, I think it's Blink, which is about people making fast decisions. Yeah. And I think this is the one that it's in, is that he talks about airplane crashes and that airplane crashes frequently from pilot error. And he asked the question of, like, is it more likely that the senior pilot with the most experience was flying the plane at the time, or the co-pilot? And it's almost always the senior pilot with the most experience that's flying the plane when it crashes. And frequently the co-pilots, it's the countries, this is Malcolm Gladwell, and we can have a lot of opinions about about certain things that he says, but this is what he says, is that the countries that had the most deference, which meant people most respectful of people in charge, had the most plane crashes.
Oh, wow.
Because it's very difficult for someone to speak up to someone in authority. Like, this is so disturbing, but like flight recordings where they're running out of fuel. Yeah. And the lower, the co-pilots and the navigators are saying things like, "Sir, maybe we should think about our fuel." Right. Or "Sir, we've exceeded the," but they don't say, "Dude, we're running out of gas. We're going to die." Right. They never say that. And then they crash the plane and they all die. Right. That's over many, many minutes. Right. That this is happening. So that's why it goes, like, I totally understand what you're saying, but this happens real fast, and it's hard to stand up to someone in these kinds of circumstances.
I guess so. But I mean, I would say that for, like, Hendricks, right? The deputy he has, but I mean, Brody's been a chief of police. He's coming out of New York. So, but again, it's for the story. But
and what is Brody wants to get back to shore. He doesn't want to keep fighting the shark.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. But and Quint doing this is self-destructive shit. Quentin's so
crazy,
far gone that he is like, we are willing this to happen.
And it's literal destruction now because black smoke explodes out of the engine.
You burned out the bearings. I'm gonna get my gear.
All right, stop the boat. Stop the boat!
Hooper goes down into the cabin. The lens is already wet, which really gives you a sense that this boat's going down. And he jumps into the water, and then there's an explosion. And I don't even know what's happening. It's like the boat is just falling apart as we speak. And Quint goes into the cabin. I think he knows that he has fucked up. I think he.
Oh yeah, no, yes,
yeah.
And
the music that John Williams plays is a tiny bit of Farewell and Adieu to You Fair Spanish Ladies. That's what the theme that goes on right now. He steps into the water, looks around at his wrecked boat, and sees the life jacket, and we think about his speech. It's a perfect plant.
How can I say this? And I want to respect people who deal with anger issues. Certainly I've in the past have had, therapy from some of my anger stuff from way when I was a young kid and stuff. And I also relate this to a little bit like addiction, right? There's always that moment where after you have lost yourself to the addiction or lost yourself to your emotional state of mind that you stop and you look around and you see the damage that you've caused, whether physically, for lack of a better term, or figuratively. And that's what I think Quint's doing when he's standing there. He's like, oh, like, damn it. My anger, my rage, my untreated psychological trauma and PTSD from that experience. He's looking at what he's done to his own boat, his own creation, the thing that he probably loves more than anything else in the world. And just like when you deal with someone with addiction or you deal with someone with anger issues, they're not going to come out most of the time if they haven't treated this stuff with therapy and come out and say like, hey guys, I'm sorry, I lost it, blah, blah, blah. They'll do some kind of act that is a way of essentially asking for forgiveness. And they'll concede stuff that they were so adamantly opposed to. And so I think when he looks around and sees the damage he's caused, and when the next thing we see him, he is much more put together. The cap is on, the jacket is zipped up, and he comes out with those life jackets. And then he asks Hooper about the cage. I think there's something really powerful in that. That is him conceding. That is him realizing that he'd let his anger and his fear and his panic, and as you said, Steve, as you were in your head canon, his dreams, his nightmares, control him to the point where he incapacitated and destroyed the thing he loves is in the boat, and possibly put these two men's lives in danger. Because I do think he cares about these guys. I don't think he ever sets out to kill people, So I think it's a really nice moment that he comes out. Well, maybe not the cap, he's wearing the headband, I guess. But it's a nice moment when he comes out and he's conceding all of this stuff to the guys. And it shows, it makes you like him more, even though he messed things up,
I think it's a great point you make, because I think this is fascinating that this guy was a total disaster seconds ago.
Yes.
And when he comes out, he is really different. And that is a very interesting choice. And it does make me go like maybe to your story of him, the life that he would have lived had he lived. But this guy, maybe he has found, maybe he had to go to the absolute bottom of the panic.
Yeah.
To kind of come up on the other side a little bit. I don't know.
We've you and I, and I'm sure people listening have dealt with people in our lives, and maybe some of you listening have been this person in your lives. Like, as I said earlier, my anger stuff from when I was younger, like you have a moment of clarity after it and you go, how the hell did I let myself go this far? Because when you think about it in the moment, it seemed logical. And I think with a lot of people who deal with addiction and deal with residue trauma and PTSD from whatever it may be that affects them, when you snap out of it, you really are shocked of the destruction you've caused. Again, whether it's verbal, physical, what have you, mental, you're just kind of looking around going, how the hell did this happen? How the hell did I let it get here? And all you want to do is ask for forgiveness or make it right somehow. And I think that's what you see in Quint, and it's such an appealing character beat for this character.
So he comes back out and not wearing the life jacket, which we kind of go like, that's the big question. He said he's never put on a life jacket again, and he is not. And the Orca is now tilted and halfway, down. And this, of course, is that pontoon version of the Orca, which, by the way, sat on Martha's Vineyard for decades on this guy's property who owned it, I think, and people would climb over the fence and rip off a piece of the Orca until now it's entirely gone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Hooper looks totally stunned. I think, and this is just totally my headcanon, but I think he already knows that he's going to go in the water.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I think he's already going like that's the only possible solution. And you're right. Quint comes out. I think he looks almost jaunty the way that he comes out.
Smaller almost. He looks almost smaller. Yeah.
And I love that we sit in silence for a while.
Mm-hmm.
The framing's perfect with Hooper in the foreground looking out to sea, Brody and Quint in the background. And then finally Quint says,
Hooper, what exactly can you do with these things of yours?
Well, I think I can pump 20 cc's of strychnine nitrate into him if I can get close enough.
You get this little needle through his skin?
No, I can't do that. But if I can get him close enough to this cage, I think I could get him in the mouth or the eye.
Shark will rip that cage to pieces.
You got any better suggestions?
Because they're all scared.
Yeah.
That's what happens sometimes when you're scared. People lash out because they're scared. Yeah.
well, and I want to be really, really clear on this.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the bravest thing in the entire movie is Matt Hooper getting in the water with a shark.
I agree. And it is the moment we've been building to, right? Because Quint has been questioning his manhood since their first scene. And here is something that Quint won't do, and that is get in the water with the shark. Hooper will.
Right.
Brody won't.
No.
Hooper will. And I think you're absolutely right, Steve. And I agree with you that there's a reason the shot is him in the foreground looking out at the water in the silence. He's saying to himself, I've got to get in this cage and because I can do something. I have something I can do.
Yep.
I need to be brave enough and I need to be strong enough to do it. And it's all these things. He's probably, in my head canon, he's thinking about everything he told his dad and everything he said and about what he can do and why he's inspired by this and why he loves this. And he's there in that moment going, now it's time to prove it to myself. And I'm going to do this. It's incredible. And I think that's why he lashes out at Brody as well, because Brody's questioning his judgment. And it took him a long time to come to this moment. And he's not going to be stopped now.
I'm going to try to say this, but it's just going to sound entirely crazy. But this is true, which is on the first shark documentary I worked with. There was a shark scientist by the name of Mark Marks. And I remember interviewing him and I asked him, well, what happens how would you feel if you got hit? Because he was out swimming with sharks, no cages, just out there with them. And he said this, and this is going to sound crazy, but he was like, that would be okay if I got killed by a shark. You know, it's kind of, there's this weird sort of, this is what I love doing. This is what, and I know that I'm pushing the envelope to some degree. I don't feel out of danger, but if this is my life's work. That's how he was saying it, which is a weird way to think about that, you know?
I kind of respect that. You know, you've come to terms with what can happen, but I can't deny that this is what I'm inspired to do and driven to do. And I know what can happen to me if I do this.
So we go into, I don't know what you think. I think this is one of the most influential montages in film history because I think this is the team getting ready for the battle montage. Yeah. Which becomes, you think about, I mean, Rocky is the next year, which is the you know, quintessential training montage movie. Right. And like, I think this is the Avengers getting ready to fight Thanos. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like this kind of a montage is something we see on the A-Team and everything else from that point going forward. They're going to we're going to need a montage.
Yeah. I love the way everybody is framed with the cage coming into Scheider's face, coming to the side of Hooper, the small shot of Quint, and then all three of them in a full shot screwing in the screws to connect the cage. It's great. It's just showing you and the music cue here is great as well. It's like this last moment of hopefulness of what can happen. It's great.
Well, and it's that, you know, it's building with that battle theme. Yeah. And the interesting, I've used the term a leitmotif, which is these themes. I also want to introduce another musical term, which is resolution, which basically every melody we're sort of programmed that it's going to end in a certain place, you know, and there's musical theory on why it is. There's mathematical reasons why that is. There's cultural reasons why that is. But we have a sense of where music is going to go. And when it doesn't go there, we get tense. And so one of the most basic movie scoring tools is to withhold resolution. I make you think it's going to end,
Yeah.
but it ain't going to end. And so this one in particular is that it builds and it goes, and it doesn't give you a resolution. It just keeps getting more and more tense, and we're kind of settling down as he goes into the water, and then this really ominous note when Brody hands Hooper the mask. And then we hear that, what I call the happy sailing theme, except now it's played in a minor key, and it gives you that really dissonant ending. And it's just like, oh, this is what started off as this grand adventure. This is where we've ended up.
Yeah. This stripped down Stark last attempt is where we've ended up. Yeah. I love that he has no spit for his mask. And I even love the shot of Quint looking down at him, almost from a place of respect, that he's willing to do this. And I think also genuine concern that Hooper's going to die. I think Quint has grown to actually care about Hooper in his own fucked up way by the time he gets in this cage.
Yeah, I think about where their journey started and the disrespect he threw Hooper's way when they met. And I think, just to be real clear for me, Quint knows there is no fucking way he would have the courage to do what he is watching Hooper do right now.
Agreed.
Try to keep him off me until I'm lower. Okay, I'm ready.
And they crank him down, and the shot of that cage as it descends into the water. And now we have to talk about another element of the filming of Jaws, which is they wanted to have some real sharks. And so they wanted to have real shark footage. And so they reached out to, remember, there's this documentary called Blue Water, White Death.
Oh, God, yeah.
That had been made. And this was one of the inspirations for Peter Benchley writing Jaws. And so they reached out to the director of that film, Peter Kimball, and said, hey, we would like you to shoot some actual shark footage to use in this movie. And he said, no, but I'll direct the movie. So they're like, no, we don't think so. He's like, no, you should have me direct Jaws. They said, no, thank you. And he said, well, then I'm not going to shoot anything for you. But he recommended Ron and Valerie.
Bitch. I want to direct the movie.
I want to direct the movie. He recommended Ron and Valerie Taylor, who had been camera people for his documentary, and they shot off of South Australia at Dangerous Reef. But the problem was most of the sharks that they were used to shooting were about 16 feet. They weren't 25 feet, which means that everything's going to be out of scale. You can't. And so, they talked about, well, we could just have a mannequin in a tiny little cage. And then Steven Spielberg said, no, why don't we find a little person? And then we have a small cage with a little person in it. And so they put out, a notice to say, we're looking for little person stuntmen who have scuba experience. Right. And there's this dude named Carl Rizzo, who's 4'9" stuntman, and he really, really wants to gig. He goes onto the Universal lot, and apparently while he's driving to meet with Steven Spielberg, he has some kind of a car accident and flees the scene of the accident.
Oh my God. Because
he's so desperate to get the gig, runs all the way over to the meeting with Spielberg, says, okay, I'm here, and Spielberg's like, why are you sweating and out of breath? He's like, well, I just had a car accident, but I really need the thing. He's like, Spielberg goes, go back and take care of the car accident, but yes, you have the job.
That's amazing.
So they ship this guy off to South Australia to meet with these people. And guess what? He really doesn't have any scuba experience. He really doesn't know what he's doing. And he's terrified of sharks. And they do get him to do it. We'll get back to his experience in a moment.
That's amazing.
So we're with Hooper. As he descends, he clears his mask, and right away we hear that shark music.
Yeah.
And see that underwater shark through the haze of the shark in the distance. And the shark circles, and then it goes away. And the theme quiets, and now we're alone in the murk. And it is, and the moment too, when he just thinks like moving the spear to the outside of the bars is so scary, because you're like, what are you doing? Well, don't do that. Yeah. He takes the little cork thing off his spear. He looks around, and then the shark hits him from behind.
Yeah, because, just so we're clear, and Steve, I'm sure you can back this up or contradict me, but like a shark is so fast. You thinking that you can outwit a shark with your hands outside the cage, it's such a desperately insane decision to make. Because that thing, when it comes, it'll come fast, and if it wants to rip your arms off, ain't a goddamn thing you can do about it. So. But it adds to the drama and the tension, right? So
I definitely not going to hear any arguments to me that sharks are really, really fast and really, really powerful. The other thing is this, and this I will say, here is a thing about shark safety, which is that the murkier the water, the lower the visibility, the more dangerous the shark. Because the whole reason that people get hit by a shark is the shark makes a mistake.
Right.
So how clearly they can see you is a key thing of keeping you safe. So if you really are scared of sharks and you get to the ocean and you go, there is like 3 feet of visibility in this water today. Well, that's the day not to maybe be in there. I mean, I'm still not saying sharks are a real threat, but visibility is probably the biggest X factor.
Yeah.
And here the visibility is not great. And when that shark hits him from behind, it is really scary. This one is Dick Warlock, which is Dreyfuss's stunt double, and this is with the mechanical shark. This first big hit, the thing I wrote down, I was like, man, always check your 6. Like you were not looking around, dude. And of course, we see that spear sink to the bottom. Hooper is breathing heavy and very scared, spinning around, terrified expression as the shark hits. Hooper is stabbing at it. The cage is bent to shit. Blood is everywhere. We see Hooper swimming down, and the shark has now landed on top of the cage and is in a complete panic.
Yeah.
This is what was happening. They had gotten Carl Rizzo into the cage a few times to film a few shots with sharks. And he's out on the boat again, and he's like, I'm not going back in. No way. I'm not going back in. And as they're doing this shark swims up and gets tangled in the cables above the shark cage. So this really happened. This shark scrambling around is a 16-foot shark over this small cage on South Australia in a total panic. The whole boat is moving around. Carl Rizzo's holding on for dear life, and they're saying as soon as that shark goes away, you're going back in the cage. And he's like, oh no, I'm not. And I think that's the last time he went in the cage. But that's also how they got this amazing shot, which they got to incorporate into the movie.
That's true. I love that they tied or maybe it was from the attack, the yellow rope on its mouth. Which of course makes you think of the barrels, so yeah.
Oh yeah. And now we're back on the surface and they're just looking at the chaos down below and they're struggling to bring him up. We see Hooper swim and hide. And I think it's really interesting exactly how much we see of Hooper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because they could have showed him less and we would have been more certain that he dies. And I think they leave it a little bit in the middle, you know? Shark swims away. They jerry-rig the winch and they bring up the cage that is just totally beat to shit. Yeah. And Brody, knows his friend's dead at this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I feel like you're dreading what's happening next.
Yeah. It's always the cue, isn't it? It's the cue.
Yeah.
As soon as they grasp what's happened to the cage, Spielberg and the editors smartly don't give us any time to dwell on it before this moment that is, for me, the most heartbreaking moment in the movie.
The shark leaps onto the orca and, it's a big mechanical shark. I mean, like, it is what it is. Yeah. It totally works for me, but part of it is, we're seeing the most of the shark right here.
Yeah.
They run. Quint falls. He's sliding towards the stern. He reaches out to grab something, and that fucking unsecured air tank hits his hand. Brody grabs his arm, and I hadn't thought about the wound on his hand being part of why it slips out, but he does slip out, and he slides towards the shark.
Both of his hands were scarred from the rope. So when he is holding on to the corner of the whatever that is that he's holding on to, I don't know what you call that, but whatever that is he's holding on to, the tank rolling onto his fingers combined with the pain on his palm is what makes him let go. And then with Brody, he's not strong enough to close his fingers around Brody's hand because of how he's been scarred in the middle of his palm. I'm not advising anybody to try this, but if you cut your hand in the middle of the hand, it messes with your tendons, messes with your ability to grip things. And so that's why I think he slips out of Brody's hand. So it's tragic. And it was his own advice that he didn't follow that is the thing that leads him to end up, where he ends up, which we're about to talk to, which fucking breaks my heart. I hate this moment.
He slides down towards the shark. He's fighting. It's just that desperate, everything I can to preserve my life with his feet. And then he slides into the mouth, and I can't, the sense of doom and destiny of your greatest fear that has haunted you from, your youth is in fact what's going to kill you.
Yeah. I think this is something, I know you can maybe overlook this when you look at the great performance of Robert Shaw in this movie, but I think this acting moment is incredible as well. The screams of utter terror that, as you said, Steve, as you did with your headcanon, that the nightmare has come to visit him now in real life. He's almost regressing back to being a child almost in the desperate nature with which he's kicking the snout of this shark, trying to stay out of its mouth while also screaming in terror. And then when he slides into the shark, the crunch that it makes on his torso, and then the swinging around all of this, it is so painful. I cry every time. I think even since I was a kid, because I love this character so much. And it's such a tragic end to this character who we were just starting to like because he was softening up in the movie, to have him go out this way. But as you said, well, I think I'm going to take what you said and go a little farther. He tempted fate by turning himself into a shark hunter. By using his trauma to become this shark hunter, he essentially was inviting this death his entire life. And now the death has finally come to visit him. And it is ferocious. It is horrible. And the winging around back and forth, it's the right amount of death, I guess, for a scene like this to really hit home with the audience. And I thought it was perfectly directed, perfectly edited. And the time that it was allowed to be on screen lets the audience consume that in a way that's devastating,
I'm glad you mentioned the time, because I think there's a theory in storytelling, which is sort of like, once you get to the end, you should get to the end as quickly as possible, and that's what this movie is like, once we got to putting that cage together, we're not stopping. It's as right after the cage comes up, suddenly there's the shark. And then, and that final moment, you said the screaming and Roy Scheider's expression of when he sees this moment, and then the death, and then the slow kind of descent down with, it's an incredible death.
And they made the machete moment work, right? Because he grabs the machete off the side of the ship and he's stabbing the shark on the side to try in a desperate attempt. He's dead anyway, but they're trying a desperate attempt to stay alive. And it's so smart to have the final moment of the spitting out of the blood. And then he's almost Christ-like as essentially crucified.
Oh, yeah.
In the way he's being submerged back into the water by the shark.
I feel compelled to say a thing that I've said many times, but I think this is such a good example, which is that there's this thing like idea, the save the cat idea, where we like characters because they're good.
Yeah.
Quint, I don't like Quint because he's good.
Right.
I like Quint because he's a great character.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
He is. He is. I don't think I'd want to hang out with Quint. I don't think I want Quint to be my buddy, but Quint is a great character in a movie, and I feel so much for him at this point,
Again, I think the construction of the film to soften him up just before he dies by having him come out and essentially concede to Hooper and help Hooper with the cage, which he had been ridiculing before they got on the ship. That's on purpose. That's not an accident. It's to make you care about him, just to glimpse the possibility that he could survive. He could actually understand that he was wrong here and grow from it. And before we get a chance to see that, the tragedy is he gets consumed by the shark.
Brody is alone in the cabin. The Orca is fully sinking. It's now capsizing. We see the air tank. The shark comes in through the window. Yeah. Brody sees the tank, slams it into the shark's teeth, and then into its mouth. And I'm like, not only is this crazy and kind of amazing, but it's also like, think of the plants. Is that when we cut open the shark, we saw the license plate because we were told that tiger shark will eat anything. Yeah. Then Quint says, I don't know what he's going to do with that cage. He might eat it. I saw him eat a rocking chair once. It's like we've been planting, and then all the plants on the air tanks, not securing them, which rope we're using, that they'll explode. Like over and over again, we've been planting this to set this all up.
But what do you think about having shards of clothes and skin and bloody teeth driven off the shark? Do you think that was a little too far?
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, we've gone into a crazy place.
I love it.
The Orca is capsizing. Brody climbs out of the window on the side of the boat, which is really now on the top, and the shark turns towards us. And I just have to say, like, I'm going to try to explain or describe this, and I'm not going to do a good job. We've established all these musical themes. We have a couple of shark themes. We have the Mystery of the Sea theme, what I call the battle theme, what you called the Raiders of the Lost Ark theme. We have the happy sailing themes. We have all of these different themes. And now what John Williams is going to do is he's going to combine all of them. Every single one of those themes that we've heard is going to play in this sequence. And they're going to play almost shot to describe what is happening. So when you're on Brody, we're going to hear the battle theme. When the shark turns, we're going to hear the shark theme and the hunting theme. When we don't know where the shark is, we're going to hear the mystery theme. When the mast is going down, we're going to hear a descending version of the happy sailing theme. Like you could literally close your eyes and listen to the music and understand exactly what's happening on the screen. It is totally amazing.
I also think the ringing bell is an important cue as well as the ship is going down. It's almost an indicator of the death of this ship itself. You know, like sometimes you have 21 gun salute for someone being buried in the military. You have these in wrestling. They ring the bell when a wrestler has died. They all come out and stand on the platform, and then they ring the ring bell as an honor. So the ringing of the bell as the ship is going down is almost in a way, honoring the ship itself as it's being buried in the water, which I think is great. At least that's how I take it,
I'd never had that thought, but I love it. I think that's great. The shark turns and we have the hunting theme as Brody grabs the rifle and we hear that happy sailing theme and he climbs the mast, and then there's the sustain and the quiet. And there's that mystery as we don't know where the shark is. And then the shark surfaces and it is super dissonant and crazy as he battles with the spear. And this is, I think the mast going down and him being on this mast at the last possible second as it's descending into the ocean is like the ticking clock on a bomb.
Yeah.
But a way more dramatic version of one.
Yeah.
Because it's so visual. And this movie, I think, this is one of the greatest climactic moments in any film in movie history. And part of what makes it so great is there's a sense, I would call it like, full count in the bottom of the ninth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, This is the pitch. This is the moment. The moment is coming right to now. The shark is turned. It's coming straight for him. We hear the build. Again, this idea of resolution, that this music is going to build and not resolve and not resolve. And Scheider's going,
All right, come on. Show me the tank. Show me the tank. Blow up.
And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the music, right when it's going to hit its climactic moment, cuts out. And we hear,
Smile, you son of a...
Perfect.
It is perfect.
Yep.
When he told Peter Benchley, because this is not in the book, he said about the ending, Benchley said, that is totally ridiculous. That would never happen. And Spielberg, which of course it is, this is totally ridiculous. Yes. And Spielberg's response is, if I have them for 2 hours, they'll believe whatever I do in the next 2 minutes.
He's absolutely right.
Yep. Brody's reaction to the shark blowing up.
Just the utter joy and relief. But I love the way this is filmed, Steve. I mean, Spielberg, the cinematography and the camera placement here, this is how you use the size of a movie theater. This is what people talk about nowadays, like shooting films for streaming, shooting films for a theater. It's two different things, right? And a lot of directors have, like recently Dexter Fletcher has come out and spoken about that. He directed some streaming films. The shots here of the shark in the distance with the barrels behind it. Brody in the foreground here as this mast is sinking it's so perfectly angularly shot and set up that you really grasp the size of and the scope of what you're witnessing on the water, right? And I think it's so powerful so that right before we're about to get into these tighter shots of him shooting and the close-ups on the shark with human skin hanging off its teeth, like in the tank, we get these close-ups. Before that, we get to grasp the majesty and the size of the situation, and also the odds, the astronomical odds that this is actually going to work, shooting into a massive body of water to try to hit this one target so small inside a constantly moving shark's mouth. It is a massive shot to take, and this the odds of it are just, I don't know, 500 trillion to 1 that he would have made this shot. But as you said, it's a great climactic ending.
I think this and the destruction of the Death Star a couple of years later are what forms the template for all action films going forward, is that everything will come down to this spectacular moment at the end.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I think they're still trying to compete with this. They're still trying to do a better one. Good point, man. So blowing up the shark was, in fact, the last shot filmed on Martha's Vineyard. And they had rigged it all in one day. They had set everything up, and then they ran out of time and they ran out of light. And Spielberg's flight was booked out of Boston the next day. And he turned to his DP, Bill Butler, and he said, "You're shooting it." And he left. He went off the island. He is on the flight the next day with Richard Dreyfuss, who says, "Hey, how was blowing up the shark?" And he said, and Spielberg goes, "They're doing it right now." And Dreyfuss goes, "Why aren't you there?" And Spielberg just started giggling. And this is a tradition that Spielberg, since then, has never shot the last shot of his movies.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was not there for this. We'll get back a little bit more to that in a moment.
Yeah.
So we have this explosion, Brody's unbelievable reaction, and now we go underwater, and we have that same mystery of the deep music with the harp and the maybe clarinet, except now it's in a major key. And this finally is resolution.
Yeah.
This is musical resolution as that bloody mass goes down, and we hear the sound from Duel of the truck going over the cliff is the same sound as the shark descending, which is also, I'm pretty sure, used in Jurassic Park with one of the dinosaurs as well.
Yeah, I like the music cue here. It is almost a majestical music cue.
Yeah.
That something this size even existed on Earth. There's almost a respect in the music cue for this creature.
And then we're back to Brody, who's just breathing, taking in what happened. And then a moment later, in perfect time, I think, we have Bubbles, and there's Hooper. I love that Brody doesn't see him, and he looks around, sees Brody lying on the mast, swims over to him, and then the moment that Brody realizes Hooper is alive is magical.
Yeah.
Quint.
No. We get in on those?
And then we cut to a shot of them on a board, supported by some barrels.
Hey, what day is this?
It's Wednesday. It's Tuesday, I think.
I think the tide's with us.
Are you kicking?
Which to me means it's not, or it's about to turn on. It's about to turn on us.
Or who gives a shit? Let's get to the fucking shore.
Yeah. And then the final lines of,
I used to hate the water.
I can't imagine why.
I mean, sometimes movies get vilified for putting in happy endings at the end, but this one really works because you've gotten to know both of these characters, and this interaction is not out of character for these two to have, especially after what they've just experienced. And I think Dreyfuss' delivery of that last line is just so perfect. I can't imagine why.
Yeah. And then we have the long credits as they slowly swim to shore, which I love because I just want to sit in this world a little bit longer,
Good point. Yeah.
We have a few questions from some of our patrons. Jeremy Adams writes, I watch younger people react to the film on YouTube, and they find the ending abrupt and wish there were more scenes of Brody back with his family after the climax. I love the sudden endings of 70 films as opposed to the often padded ones in modern films. What do you guys think of this phenomenon?
Well, I mean, it's tough for us to, I'm not trying to speak for Steve, but I would imagine it's tough for us because these are the films we grew up on. These are the films we watched. So for us, abrupt endings is what we had kind of become accustomed to because this is one of the greatest decades in film. Same with Godfather. Godfather ends with that door closing. There's no extra scene. There's nothing. It just ends. And I think there's a power in that because real life is like that sometimes. You don't get that. Let's have that extra closure moment in life. Rarely do you get that in life. So I think that's one of the reasons why the 70s is the greatest decade in film, in my opinion, is because it kind of mirrors reality a little bit more while also telling these fantastical stories like Jaws. So I would have hated scenes with him going to see Ellen and seeing the kids and being embraced, and Hooper gets embraced by the guys because then you have to throw a voiceover in, don't you? You have to be like, oh, well, after the shark died, and then there's an honorary plaque for Quint or $10,000 given to Quint's daughter who no one spoke about. Like, it just would be unnecessary. This is about these three guys and about this shark. Once the shark is killed, I don't need to see more with the world of these men. So I like the abrupt ending, and I like that we're shot from far away so we can enjoy the credits while also keeping track of these guys as they're coming closer and closer to shore. So yeah, I like it.
I go back to what I said a while ago, is that I think the general rule of when you get to the end, end it as quickly as possible is usually correct. I mean, like, what was I going to go see? Like arguments with the mayor over closing the beaches and the next election. And I don't care. This was a movie about this happening, and now it has happened and we're done.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is when you have like when we say, and they lived happily ever after, we don't show them living happily ever after because they live happily ever after in your mind. Like, I don't need that. The only part of, stories are based on conflict and tension. Well, we just killed the conflict and tension. Like, the story's over. Go home. That's how I feel about it.
What general rule of entertainment? Always leave them wanting more.
Exactly.
Always the truth. Yeah.
So Spielberg said this was by far, and still to this day, is the toughest shoot of his entire life. It was scheduled for 55 days. He shot for 159 days. As I said, he never left the island in that time, was under tremendous stress at 27 years old running this whole thing. And so he left the island the day he didn't shoot the final shot. What I didn't say is that he had to spend the night in Boston before he went home. And it sounds like, and I've heard him describe this several times, and the more recent one, I think maybe is the most honest. It sounds like it was full panic attack.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, couldn't breathe, heart wouldn't stop beating, drenched in sweat, thought he was going to die. And now I know from, and I'll go a little bit more into it in a moment, but this haunted him. I mean, this wasn't like, I always think of this as the triumphant young man making the amazing movie under impossible circumstances. I didn't think about it as this is PTSD for Steven Spielberg, but it actually is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people forget that directors are human beings, and these experiences that they go through scar them for the rest of their lives. I mean, I'm sure Coppola is still scarred from the Apocalypse Now shooting. And so, or the time shooting that film, rather. And I think there's a lot of directors that have that film that tasks them and tests them and colors how they direct going forward and how they handle themselves going forward, and so I'm not surprised that he would have. Plus, he's a young man. And listen, we all know the stories about Steven getting onto that set and onto the lot and fabricating that it's his office and all of that. It's one thing to want something and going and getting it. It's a whole nother ballgame once you get it, and how you navigate those things, because Hollywood, as we all know this, just like sports, just like anything in entertainment, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
And to have at 27 and 26 and 27, to have this responsibility, this massive thing that you wanted. You remember Steve said in the first part, he wanted to do this film. He went for it. To see what it all led to afterwards, you're like, wow, my career could be over before I've really had a chance to start. And that is harrowing for someone of his incredible talent to have conceived of at such a young age, that all of this thing that he felt he was meant for might not be able to come true because of the experience on this set. So, yeah.
We're in post where Verna Fields is editing the movie in her house in the valley. It's amazing to me, and this is very traditional of this time, that she's editing totally without music. So she doesn't have any John Williams music. She's just cutting the film, and the early screenings with executives went fine without the music. But the first big public screening, it sounds like, was absolutely insane. We've heard this a lot on this show, but this one sounds like one of the great screenings of all time. They have big fights over the rating, and they say this movie should be PG. And the rating board said this should be an R-rated movie. And they finally they had to pull out a little bit of blood, pull out a couple of frames of things. But the big argument they used was nobody is going to go out and try to kill people by imitating the shark. So we're not going to inspire people to be violent. Therefore, it should be PG. And it was rated PG, which is shocking to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
There is a groundbreaking ad campaign starting with the iconic poster that we all know. This was actually the cover of the book. It's Roger Castell is the artist. He created the iconic, you can picture it, Empire Strikes Back poster image.
Oh, yeah.
This is this guy. He was really just a small-time book illustrator at the time, and he had this idea of this shark image, and he was doing a cover for Good Housekeeping, and he asked the model, hey, can you stay for an extra half hour to be the swimmer? And that's how he shot the cover of the book.
Wow.
And when they went to do the movie, basically they said, hey, we just want to use the cover of the book, and Benchley gave it to them for free. He said, I'm not even going to charge you. Here.
Wow.
So he gave that away.
Wow.
The movie is really the first movie to be advertised on TV. Like there was a little bit, but there weren't broad campaigns for movies on TV because they thought of TV as the enemy.
Yeah.
And the commercials were voiced by Percy Rodriguez, John, who played Commodore Stone in the episode Court Martial of the original Star Trek series.
Oh, yes. I love him. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's great. So he's the voice.
I got to hear that. Oh, wow.
Back in the day, the old system was they would release movies in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and a few other big cities, see how they do, see how the reviews are, and then decide how many theaters to roll them out to. This is the first real wide release movie. It was released in 400 theaters simultaneously. By the way, Spielberg was, when it first opened in New York, he was hanging out with some buddies of his, Janet Maslin and Albert Brooks.
Oh, you mean
and wanted to
noted critic and actor, yes.
Yeah, and wanted to see if anyone was going to see the movie, and he went to the theater, and there were lines around the block.
Wow.
Dreyfuss and Schneider went together in New York, and Dreyfuss was certain it would be a disaster. He had just done The Apprentices of Duddy Kravitz, which had not gone well,
Right.
and he basically went, it was a disaster making the movie, therefore the movie will be a disaster. There was not, which I'm sure you felt was like, this can't possibly come together well.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah. There was a huge standing ovation at the end of the movie, silence, nobody moves through the entire credits, and then a second standing ovation. And Dreyfuss, I just picture him, he's grabbing Roy Scheider and just going, he did it, Steven, he did it. Now they open it up to 600 theaters. No movie's been in this many theaters, and they're getting more requests from theaters to put it in more places. And Lou Wasserman, the head of Universal at the time, says, no, let's take it down to 300 theaters because we want these theaters packed.
Wow.
And so they had packed theaters all summer, well into the fall. This movie was originally budgeted like $3.5 to $4 million. It cost $9 million. It is the first movie ever to cross $100 million. It became the biggest picture of all time. They would have these posters of shark teeth devouring each of the biggest pictures, Gone with the Wind, Sound of Music, The Sting as The Exorcist is passing all of them.
That's great.
Becomes a huge pop culture phenomenon. Jokes about it on every talk show, Johnny Carson. On Saturday Night Live, they did Land Shark. I'm sure you remember Land Shark.
Aykroyd is great.
What I didn't know is that Steven Spielberg was in the audience and at Saturday Night Live when they did Land Shark.
That's great.
Jaws was on the cover of Mad Magazine and Time Magazine during the same week.
Wow.
Spielberg says he was much happier about Mad Magazine than Time Magazine. Would you like to hear what it was nominated for at the Oscars?
Let's go.
It was nominated for picture, editing, and sound.
Okay.
No nomination for Steven Spielberg. This is one of the first of there are some other big snubs like this, but this is one of the first and one of the big ones. No nomination for actor, supporting actor, script, cinematography.
It's a shame when you talk about the acting stuff. I don't think it was necessarily Scheider or Dreyfuss or even Lorraine Gray. It's more Robert Shaw. You know, when you look at the list of the best supporting actor nominees of that year, you have George Burns in The Sunshine Boys, who won, by the way, for that movie. And I love The Sunshine Boys. Brad Dourif with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, incredible performance there. Arguably should have won. Burgess Meredith in The Day of the Locust, Chris Sarandon in Dog Day Afternoon, Jack Warden in Shampoo. I would absolutely remove Robert Shaw I would replace him with just about anybody except for Brad Dourif in that category. And I would argue that it's between Dourif and Shaw if you were to replace Shaw, or any of the actors rather, with Shaw, because Shaw deserved it over just about every one of those people except for maybe Brad Dourif, in my opinion.
And this year, what it was up against was Barry Lyndon, Dog Day Afternoon, Nashville, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which won.
I mean, you can't argue One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I mean, I would vote for Jaws, although I love Cuckoo's Nest. Spielberg says he would have voted for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Robert Shaw died just a few years later on August 28th, 1978, at the age of 51.
51, man.
It's 5 years younger than me. So even after all the success, Spielberg was still having nightmares. He would wake up in a cold sweat thinking he was back on the island. Like totally panicked. Heart couldn't stop beating. And his office was at Universal Studios, still at Universal Studios. And the original Orca boat was over by where the shark popped out of the water on the studio tour. And Spielberg used to go and sit in the Orca.
Oh, wow.
And I'd heard this rumor. So I'd heard that he had sometimes would sit in the Orca.
Yeah.
What I hadn't heard was that he would sit in the Orca sometimes and cry. Like this is not a joke about the PTSD thing. Like that's where I go like, no, I think he was really, really wrecked by what he went through trying to get this movie made.
Well, I mean, in essence, there's almost an element of Quint in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
The film became to him like the shark became to Quint, in essence. And yeah, I mean, and I'm sure at the time there's, of course there's therapists and whatever, but like still kind of new in the world of treating people with their trauma and PTSD and what have you. So maybe Steven wasn't a guy as a young guy who would go to therapy to deal with this kind of stuff. And his way of dealing with it is to sit in that place, go through the emotions, which I would argue sometimes is the best thing to do, is to let those emotions out so they don't stay sitting inside of you, pent it up and whatever. And then it comes out in an explosion. So people might not believe this, but Steven is, there's a reason they tell you the one person you can't cross in Hollywood is Steven Spielberg, because that man, for all his niceness and all ET and all of that shit, he has a strong streak within himself about what he believes and his opinions and all of that. And so he's respectful, but if you mess with Steven Spielberg, it's a mistake. And so he clearly carries a lot of I don't know, strength within him, and maybe in those moments he's letting his guard down to deal with the emotions of that whole thing.
I also think there's a thing of like, well, you're the greatest director in the world. You're the most successful person. Like you can't have any problems. Like to be going through that kind of pain at the moment, career-wise, you're on the total ascendancy.
Yeah.
How do you go and ask for help? It's hard. So one day he goes up to sit in the Orca again, and it's gone because they discovered dry rot on it, and they took the Orca away and cut it up for scrap.
Wow.
Because they didn't know that Spielberg, that this was like his therapy place. And he apparently went apeshit. And he says he still feels bad about yelling at this poor guy, for tearing up, because they didn't know, but he went nuts. He did finally got the twin screws, the propellers from the back and the wheel. So he has those things from the original Orca.
I just visualize him sitting in like one of his offices, just rubbing that thing as he cries. I don't know.
Yeah. People still go to take Jaws tours at Martha's Vineyard. They jump off the bridge. I told you about the grave of the dog Pippet.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I mean, obviously I've watched a lot of documentaries about movies, heard a lot of directors talk about movies, and lots of directors talk about movies that influence them. There are so many directors that are just like, this is among their most important movies. J.J. Abrams, Steven Soderbergh, Cameron Crowe, Kevin Smith, on and on and on. Tarantino says he thinks Jaws is a perfect movie. So obviously this movie is hugely influential cinematically, but unfortunately it's also hugely influential in terms of sharks and our world, because this movie really scared the crap out of people. People already had negative feelings about sharks. And white shark population after this film went down by like 80%.
Oh, wow.
The sharks are hunted obviously as part of shark fin soup, which means that they hunt them, they pull them out of the water, they cut off the fins and the tail, and then they throw them back in the water, still alive, where they drown, wasting most of the meat, which is really terrible. That, as I said, sharks kill somewhere between 8 and 12 people a year, as opposed to like lions that kill maybe 200 people a year. And we've seen all sorts of incidents where one lion was hunted and killed. And I'm not saying I'm pro killing lions, but there was outrage all over the world with one death of one lion.
Wow.
There are about 100 million sharks killed per year. 100 million.
That's insane.
And it's insane. And they're critical to the ecosystem. They're apex predators. They have huge effects on our environment. And a big reason is people are outraged if you kill a dolphin, but not outraged if you kill a shark. And that is because of our feelings towards those animals, not because of how dangerous they are, just because of those feelings. And a lot of these I love this movie top to bottom, but a lot of this comes from this movie. And Spielberg has expressed regret over the effect of fear on people because of these sharks.
Yeah. That's understandable for sure.
Yeah. So, John, do you have final thoughts on Jaws?
My final thoughts are that I'm so glad we finally sat down with this film after the 50th anniversary conversation we had on the live show and gave it its proper respect and its proper due. We are a podcast, a show that honors the great films in the history of films, and the reasons we fell in love with film is portrayed in many ways in our show. And I think this is yet another one of these great films that if we were to consider ourselves, and I know you consider us the greatest film podcast on the history of the planet, we have to do films like this justice. And I'm very glad that I feel after these 4 parts that we have. We may have missed some things, possibly, and that's always going to happen. But I think that we have analyzed and dissected and discussed and brought out and highlighted all the great things about this movie, underlined why it's an amazing film that still endures the test of time, and it's still influencing new filmmakers today and reminding older filmmakers of how great movies can be. And it's a film that for us as fans, we can sit back and enjoy as just a film, and we can sit back and enjoy and savor it as when we analyze the film and dive into all the amazing things that made this film as great as it is. And it's one of these anomaly films. It's one of these films that comes along that for whatever reason captures the pop culture zeitgeist and is also respected by artists and filmmakers all across the world. So I'm very happy we dove in and analyzed the film, discussed it, broke it down, and talked about our thoughts and feelings on the film. I feel very satisfied by this discussion, and I'm happy we did this. And that's all I can say. And the film still works. The film still resonates, and I find so much more to enjoy about the movie as I get older, which, as I've said a million times before ad nauseum, is the reason why classic films are classic, because they never go out of style, and you can always find something new to appreciate and discover as you get older about the greatness of the great films.
So for me, Jaws obviously is a movie that I love, but I also think it's a movie that shows not only why I love movies, but actually why I love doing this podcast. Because I think when you go see a great movie, it feels like a magic trick, because you're just taken away to a world to have an experience. And the more involving that experience, the better the film. But the thing for me, and I've said it over and over again, I know on this show, is that there's a reason why it worked.
Right.
There's effort that went into why it worked. And you're not supposed to see that effort. You're not supposed to see the tricks. You're not supposed to be thinking about the shots. You're not supposed to be tracking leitmotifs. You're not supposed to be analyzing character backstories as you're watching the movie. You're supposed to be involved in the movie. But every tiny little detail in Jaws, and there's so many, I'll guarantee there are a million things we've missed. There are tons, not a million, but there's many, many things we missed because every one of those shots has thought to it and purpose to it. And the thing too about Jaws is that it's not that they had figured it out all in advance and knew what they were going to do. They didn't. It's the creative process happening every day under tremendous adversity and coming through and doing something great. You know, it's Jordan making the final shot in the last second. That's what's happening over and over and over again in Jaws. We're down, the shark doesn't work, and we have to be creative. And this is the thing, you know, it's what I think about in everything in life is coming up with creative solutions. It's doing the work. It's paying attention to the detail. It's not being satisfied with what's going on and trying to make something better. And everybody on this set is doing that. And man, from the beginning to the end, I can point out moment and moment and moment and moment that's brilliant. And I never get bored in this movie. I watched it again, as I said, at IMAX, and I was completely involved again. This is, to me, a perfect example of a great film. And of course, it is also on my list of great movies that ruined Hollywood. This might be at the top of the list. And that, of course, is, it's not that it's not great. It's that Hollywood then went to high concept, wide release movies with sequels that have these thrills. And we see Jaws played out over and over and over again in lots and lots of bad movies. Yeah. But that's because it's so great. So that is what we think of Jaws. I hope you enjoyed our epic exploration of this incredible film. As always, we want to hear your thoughts. So please visit us on our Facebook page. Do a search for the Cine-Files, Cine_Files on X, the Cine-Files podcast on Instagram. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And if you're on Spotify, we'd love to see your comments. On Apple Podcast, reviews are always great. There have been a couple of really nice ones recently. Thank you very much. You can buy or stream Jaws along with every other film we've ever reviewed on cinephiles.net. And if you want to reach me, it's SR Morris on Twitter, SR Morris1 on Instagram. John, how would they find you?
Yeah, you can always find me at The Rocha Says on all the social media handles and my YouTube channel, youtube.com/John Rocha Says, building and more and more every day. So come join us over there. Thousands of people listen to our show, hundreds of thousands of people download our show every month. Would love you all to come over and sample the content on my channel as well, youtube.com/John Rocha Says, the new John Rocha channel with Geek Buddies, Hot Mic, The Jedi Way, The Truth, Spill the Tequila, and my reactions and reviews as well. And occasionally, Steve pops up on some of the stuff there as well. So it's always fun to have you all. And speaking of which, Hamilton is out in theaters, and they put it out in theaters. Steve and I did a review of Hamilton that is on the John Rocha channel. So if you guys want to hear Steve and I talk about it, it is on my channel, and you can find that by going to youtube.com/John Rocha Says.
And I think that is it for this week. We'll be back next week with an all-new film right here on the Cine-Files.